I'm waiting for that fire. This is the week. This is the week we get that fire conversation.
Jesus.
Bro.
With no typing. This is the one.
You're ridiculous.
Okay.
Well, you know what? Can we just dive? We're just gonna dive.
Let's go.
Let's not even tell them what else is on the docket. I just want to start. We're talking about derailments. You know, that's what we're gonna just start with. We gotta cover some derailments, people. So
that's really the whole theme. I'm gonna say that's the theme of this whole episode. People getting derailed one way or another.
Okay. Yes. And so there was something crazy that happened in Ohio, in East Palestine, of all places. But they pronounced it differently than Palestine because they don't want to get confused, I think. But anyways, there was this insane train derailment, okay, where 50 cars on a train were completely off the track. And 20 of them have been labeled to have very hazardous materials, chemical materials, inside of them, and they spilled over the ground. And there was a control burn done by the state of Ohio and the municipalities. And there was I think 14 cars exposed to like various fires because of that. This chemical that has been kind of like being like tossed out there as like the main antagonist chemical, although there are plenty of them, right? Is called vinyl chloride. So vinyl chloride is it's what makes PVC piping, which is some of the worst shit in the world, by the way. If you didn't know, PVC piping, it's trash. One time, little life snippet, I was like at this school, and I was like, I work for like a toy company, and we were talking to this art teacher about like getting products, and then he made something with his kids with PVC piping, and I was like, we love PVC piping. And then my boss was like, no, we don't. We do not love that shit. That shit is terrible. That's like one of the worst things to love. She's like, stop just saying you love things. Anyways, it's terrible. It's really awful.
Like, you're derailing our whole company.
I was like, yo, I'm about to sell. I'm about to love anything if we're about to sell. But no, dude, it's bad. And so, anyways, the people of this town, they kind of had
He's
to
such
like.
a chill, man.
We love it. We love what you did. The people of this town had to immediately evacuate. Like when this train, like imagine like you're hanging out. And then the town is like, get the fuck out of here. Like there's this train that just derailed, and now there's smoke, like billowing black clouds above your town, and your government is telling you to get out of there. Like that, they were like on some red alert shit. They eventually came back. They were told, hey, the water supply is fine to drink. And then a day later, they were like, if there's any colors in your water, actually don't drink it. We're still testing it out. So they were getting very mixed signals from the municipality, and the early reports from some of the citizens have been like about some of the local fauna and the animals also dying downriver, and some reports of sicknesses too, just coming in and out. But it's very eerie there, right? And I was hearing Aaron Brockovich talk about this, who is a really famous lawyer. If you haven't seen the film Aaron Brockovich, go watch that. Shout out to Steven Soderbergh.
Yeah, I didn't know she was a real person. That's fascinating.
She's a real person, yeah. And Julia Roberts. Shout out to both of them. And shout out to Aaron Brockovich, who kind of had this really interesting insight where basically there's going to be a battle between the corporation that is responsible for this mess that was carrying the hazardous chemicals.
Should we name them? Norfolk Southern.
Yeah.
For those.
Yeah, Norfolk Southern. And they're basically at this point their whole end game for the next X amount of years is going to be denying that any harm was done by the spilling of these chemicals, right? And the people of East Palestine and the living creatures, they're going to kind of be the living evidence as to the contrary. And we're basically gonna have like, it's gonna take years to figure out too, because these are very long this is a long game as far as the life expectancy of the actual hazardous chemicals, right? We're talking like, these are things that can live in biomes for literally a millennia, and not even de-age, right? Or like reach its half-life. That's like what we're talking about, because they're so chemically made in this way that it's basically meant to kill everything around there. We were talking about vinyl chloride specifically because it has been linked to cancer, liver cancer, lung cancer in people that work with it. There's a belt of America where, because of their use of vinyl chlorides in factories, there are people that basically have cancer rates higher than 50 times the amount than the rest of the normal population. And it's directly related to their kind of living with vinyl chloride. If it's in a factory setting, if they're making PVC or any of these various substances. And it's a wonder that we allow this, right? That's the crazy thing. It's like it really just like a harmful thing that does only a few things really precisely, but the negative impact is profound on life, really. And so I've been thinking about this because it, to me, it completely explains like the logical fallacy that we fall into when we allow for corporate greed to manifest itself through the passage of items that contain very deadly things, and to just be like, hey, you know what? We're gonna let these ride on this train, and if shit hits the fan and we have to blow up a bunch of stuff and tell people to run from their towns, that's what's gonna happen. And then we're gonna fight these legal battles until these people run out of money. But yeah, that's what's going on in Ohio. So shout out to Ohio for holding it down. But let's talk about it a little bit more. Y'all have any thoughts? Will, I know you kind of were waiting to hear a little bit more about this, so I wanted to hear your initial thoughts about it.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to derail the topic real quick, do a quick switch up. What I heard, this was the great insight that I heard, was that this was all Pete Buttigieg's fault.
How did you hear this? What is this? I've not heard this.
So he is the Secretary of Transportation.
Yes.
And one thing that you might not know is that some of our rail cars in America are still using Civil War era brakes, which are old. Fucking old, man. Get closer to 2 centuries old than 1 at this point. And so that technology really, there's much more sophisticated braking technology at this point. And at the turn of the 21st century, there were these e-brakes that were being touted for safety. And there was great interest in them. And they were saying that this would be a good thing to replace in the trains. And it was well lauded within the industry. And then when Obama came in, Obama's like, y'all got to put the e-brakes on. And then the unions, the transportation unions, came back and said, these are really expensive. We don't really need them. They're not that important. Right? So they went into defense mode. Like, we don't want to have to do this. We don't want to retool everything. And so they came up with some eased version of the negotiation. And then Trump was like, nah, let's ease that up even more. Like, we don't have to bother. Like, and then even though we knew that these regulations probably should have been more steep, when Biden got into office and Secretary Pete jumped in, he did not hold those unions to account, and he did not implement any braking regulations. And this was a train with faulty brakes. So them's are the brakes.
Them's the brakes.
Pete Buttigieg thought he was doing a good job, but then things got derailed.
Booty.
Okay. I have a couple things that I think I can interject here. I think so. I'm not like very intimately familiar with the issue, but from my reading, I have come across some discussion about pneumatic braking being introduced onto trains that carry hazardous materials, right?
Okay.
I think this was like a hotly debated issue after this, and I think a lot of people tried to like dig this up to say that there was like some gross negligence on like the federal government's part in not enforcing this policy, right?
Right.
From my understanding, the policy that was suggested for passage would not have applied to this train specifically. For some reason, I don't know why. I imagine maybe it's like a different class of like cargo train that wouldn't have fallen under like the classification specified within like the bill that was like brought for discussion, right? So that's, I think like there's definitely something there. Like I'm not saying like, I think that there's like definitely an argument to be made that like whatever like the class of the train is, like who really gives a shit, because like it's still like a train that's running on like less than optimal breakage, and like it's carrying hazardous materials. Like clearly like it's like world ending materials for an entire town of like 4,000 people, you know, like, and like we're talking about like the class of the train that like would be covered by a bill or not, and like you're trying to like absolve guilt at like a governmental level. Like I think like that's kind of a cop out to some extent, but like within like the context of like that debate, I think like like based on like the way that debate was built from like the precursor bill, it wouldn't have actually like, had that bill actually passed, it still wouldn't have saved this particular event from occurring. I think the brakes is also like a little bit contentious, because like I think like braking definitely would have helped, but like what really like caused the mechanical failure was like a overheated ball bearing, supposedly. Like you could see like there was like a wheel on the train that had like lit on fire, and like we have like some evidence that like it was like a ball bearing within that wheel that had like gotten way too hot. I don't know how exactly that happens. I imagine it's just a ball bearing that like is not like well oiled, or like maybe there's like some like inconsistency in its texture that allows for it to like heat up really really quickly while it's like turning at those speeds, you know.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, honestly. It's a flying ball of fire.
I mean, like, I think the brakes are like, it sucks. Like, there's always going to be parts where federal regulations aren't going to be met. They're just going to be blocked. We know that, and like this is like an interesting like microcosm of our current climate situation, where a train blowing the fuck up and like ruining like the town. It's kind of like this little version of like what we actually are doing on a global scale, right? So it's this moment we're all kind of like, oh my god, like this is terrifying, and it's like, well, yeah, we've been doing this for like 200 years now, guys. Like, wake the fuck up. You don't need a train that's like polluting like the waters to like tell you that. But we always do, kind of, as humans. We need something that's very legitimately real to us visually. We're visually stimulated organisms, right? So when you see that, it's much more relatable to our kind of understanding on what our damage can be to our environments. And when I say environments, I use that term like not only like the plants and the water systems and the agriculture, but I'm talking about the places that we live. I grew up in a town with 4,500 people in it too. So it's like immediately I was like, damn, wouldn't that be crazy if that shit happened in my hometown, right? The place that it was near, Youngstown, my best friend wrote a song with that name in the lyric, you know? And so I immediately was like, whoa, I'm resonating with this place. You know, I grew up in Ohio, basically. I went to school there. You know, my summers were there. So a lot of it was kind of like close to home in this weird way. I don't know anybody there, but I'm kind of like, shit, like, this sucks. It could be anywhere. But the reality is, it is everywhere, because we allow ourselves to manufacture things that the cost of what they actually are, it greatly outweighs the benefits to them. We could survive as a society without vinyl chloride. Like, that is very much like this a livable scenario. If you eliminated everything that was a byproduct of this chemical, we would still be here. The only difference is that there would be a handful of companies that don't exist right now. And it would have been because we deterred and we said, hey, this is harmful for humans. It's going to kill an inordinate amount of people from cancer because it's linked to it, right? That's always something that I'm always like, damn, that's crazy that we'll allow things to just kill us, right? Like, and then just let it proliferate. Like, it's almost like the weirdest thing, and it's so hard to like understand because it's a little ephemeral. But anyways, yeah, if it's a breaks, if it's like anything, I just think it's a moment where we can stop and be like, oh shit, like a town's on fire, man. Like run. But yeah, well,
Yeah.
I want to hear some more of your thoughts. I know that Buttigieg was on your mind, but yeah, anything else?
Well, I just think it's kind of to what you're saying with this idea of like things killing us and us being accepted, like accepting it or being told to accept it rather. Like, I don't think it's something that people feel particularly positive about. But like, you know, you're getting these signals, oh, the water's fine to drink. Oh, actually, maybe it's not. And like, you know, it makes you wonder, like, is the air really safe to be breathing in that area? You see thick black smoke rising, right? I've seen some of those images of that. Yep. And they assure you, like, oh, yeah, the air quality's fine. No worries. No problem. Like, but if it's getting into the water supply and damaging that, like, it's hard to really trust that from these corporations, from the government. Like, it really reminds me a lot of, like, the World Trade Center and the first responders, and, like, how those first responders had to fight so hard for just to prove that 9/11 had gotten them sick and that breathing in those fumes had really damaged them. It took years and years, and they're still fighting for some of their medical rights. I don't know if you guys remember when Jon Stewart was on the Capitol. I think that was last year.
Yeah.
But like, that's a huge that's been a huge thing, and there's just like, it really does seem like a government and like corporate conspiracy to cover up those health problems. It really does. And so when you see something where like clearly there's these toxic chemicals being released into the environment, it's clearly going to cause a problem. Like, I guess I would say, like, disregard what those scientists who study those things, who are paid by the industries, are, you know, like, obviously there's some nuance there. You want to take that into an account to an extent, but like, common sense tells you if you see black smoke rising above the atmosphere of your town and encompassing your sky, that's going to come back down, right? And it's clearly showing up in the water. So like, if I were living there, I would still want to be out of the town. I would not want to go back. Like, and that's just a really unfortunate thing. It's a crazy thing. And so I take your point, Ammar, that it really kind of is a microcosm of what we're going through with climate in general. How many people have asthma, and how many people are getting sick every year because of air pollution? This is a very, like, this exposes all those chemicals at once in a really flashy way. But like, the truth is, like, if it's in those pipes and it's like, you know, we're building things with that, and, you know, like, take the lead in the pipes, like we're in Flint and things like that, we were using those types of things. Like, it might not always be in our air, it might not be this visual, but like, that's what we're doing to our bodies when we're using these unregulated, like when we're not really trying to combat those types of chemicals. And it can be really dangerous. It's one of those things that really just like, it just makes you upset. Like, when people, like, for me, when people complain about capitalism writ large, these are the examples where I go like, yeah, it kind of sucks. Like, like, what is it, Norfolk Southern? Like, that company virtually has a monopoly, right? Like, most people don't really pick that company to ship their goods or whatever. It's just like, there's not that many choices. Yeah. You're rolling with them if they're taking your freight. Like, and that's just what it is, and it's just a shame, you know. It's scary.
But I do say, like we can have these conversations about, like, because I think this is a good place to take it, where, like, is there a penalty? Like, because one ball breaks on a train, like, do we take away a monopoly? Like, that's not feasible too, right? Like, and so, like, when we talk about accountability, really, it starts, I think, with just like what you brought up, Will, is really important. Kind of like owning up to what's going on and being transparent, really. And that's the process where I actually heard something that I thought would be interesting. Fiona Apple, one of the best songwriters and recording artists of our generation, released a 5-minute short that you guys should watch. It's on court watching. It's called court watching. It might not be called that, but so basically, court watching is when you can do it from your laptop on courtwatch.org, by the way. You basically can go into a live courtroom to watch any court session in the United States. And the reason why people do that is because you find that there's a lot of actual injustice that gets done to people in courts every day, when it's just a judge and someone to sentence and a bunch of police officers. There's really not a lot of accountability there, and some really crazy shit will go down. And so the plea of the film is really about how court watching and using Twitter and other social medias to kind of call out systems or things that you see happening can actually raise awareness for something, or help somebody say if somebody gets denied bail because of something that feels rather unjust, or if like a court judge snickers at like a person based on something that they hear, like you can tell there are implicit biases that happen all the time in these things. So anyways, I was thinking it would be interesting, maybe like if, you know, a year down the line, if there are court cases for this, to kind of monitor that and see what these kind of like different scenarios might play out as, because I think that the two factions that are going to be warring is essentially like a hey, how do we make sure that there are people accountable for the crimes? How do people that were affected get compensated? And then realistically, like, what do we do to make sure, like, how do you not let this happen again, right? Like, that's like a really hard question to solve. So it's almost like all too altruistic to be like that could be an outcome from this. This could be the last time this shit happens. No, it's not. Like, we live in this system. It's broken. Shit gets broke when you're traveling constantly with it. But there are things that you can kind of do which are interesting, like reaching out to your municipalities too, when some of these certain situations arise that can cause like breakage in your water systems, anything that you kind of feel captivated to, reach out. That's like a cool thing that you can actually do to help. But yeah, just wanted to say that.
Yeah, man. Go ahead, Josh.
I kind of I take umbrage with like one point that you made, and like it's not like something that I like necessarily oppose like full stop, but I think it's something that like we should probably take a little bit more ownership of, and that's that like you said that like vinyl chloride is something that we can live without, right? That like PVC pipes are like something we could live without, right? But like the proliferation of PVC pipes is massive, you know, like it's as like ubiquitous a building material as like cement, you know, and like
totally.
Cement is like probably like the biggest like smoking gun in like our climate change conversation, right? Like if we could get rid of cement, we could take so much carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, right? But like PVC is equally ubiquitous, and like to think of stopping the usage of cement in like modern construction is unthinkable, you know, because we don't have an alternative. That's just the way that things are. Like there's not something that's cost effective that like does the same job as well as cement does, you know? Like, so I mean, our modern expansion is really at like we're taking a loan from our environment in order to expand like our like industrial sectors like as much as we are, you know, like that's just a part of like our living, you know, like it's a part of modern life to like just live with these things that like we know are doing this like irreparable damage to us. Like we take out these like unpayable loans, you know. And I think like the same thing with vinyl chloride. Like if we want to talk about vinyl chloride, like where do we go without PVC? Like we don't have an alternative ready, You know, it's not like we could flip a switch and like turn off like the supply of vinyl chloride today, you know? And like this is like a big moment where like vinyl chloride is being where we're like shining a big spotlight on vinyl chloride as this most wanted chemical, you know, to like to expunge from our lives. But like before this moment, like nobody had an issue with PVC pipes really, you know, or like at least we did, like it was kind of a niche concern, you know. And like to some extent we knew PVC pipes were fucked up. Like I mean they're plastic in the first place, like we know that, you know, like we know that. Like we don't know about the precursor chemicals that actually create the PVC, but like we imagine that the whole supply chain is kind of fucked up, and like we see in one way like how fucked up it is. But like I think like one of the questions that like is very hard to answer about this situation is like things that we can talk about, I think, are like corporate accountability, stuff like that, right? Like the fact that like this town is devastated, we know that, right? Like the fact that like Will, like what you were speaking to, like the invisible impacts that like are trying to be denied by like the Ohio government, like the Ohio EPA, by Norfolk Southern, like they're saying like there's nothing in the air because they're testing for like this one compound that like breaks out of like vinyl chloride once it decomposes through burning. Like they're checking for like that in houses, and they're checking for that in like the air of the town. They're not finding like a dangerous amount of that material, but like kids are breaking out in rashes, you know, like people like are finding blood in their stool, you know. Like people are sick already, we know that. You know, like there's I saw a video on Reddit today of like a dude in East Palestine who was like walking around. He was saying like these guys are telling us that the water is like clean, but like look at this. Like he's like walking along the bank of like one of the streams that's running through East Palestine, and he's like kicking up the soil on like on the bank of the river, and you can see like the water is clear when we first like approach it, but as soon as he disturbs the bank, you see like this trickle of like iridescent like gasoline type fluid like start to like sink into the water, and you see like this iridescent like cloud form in the water, right? And you know like that's like the vinyl chloride that's seeping into the water, you know. And he's like, that's what's here. Like they're like all around here, like looking down the stream, like this stream will not come back to life. It's dead now, you know. Like there is no fish that can live in this stream anymore. Like there's like some number right now, like there's a confirmed dead number on fish right now in East Palestine. Right. Like, they're saying like there's some 3,500 confirmed dead fish from the from like the chemical spill, right? I don't know if that's correct, but like I'm sure that's an underestimate, like honestly, you know. But I think like what in this situation can be done is reparations as much as possible for the people living here, because their housing values are tanking. Like no one can move into East Palestine anymore. This is a dead town. All likelihood points to like the fact that like this town is dead. Like there is no cleaning up this chemical spill. You can't suck the vinyl chloride out of the soil in the riverbank. You can't get it out of the wells once it's seeped in. There's no way to do that. You know, there's no way to restore the trees and the fauna and the fish. And like apparently there was like an endangered salamander type like animal that was living like in East Palestine. There was like a reservation for, or like a conservation for these salamanders that like a few very dedicated individuals in East Palestine were raising, and like they had like 250 of these things living in a stream that like was sandwiched by these two like dead pools of fish after the spill, you know. And like man. Right, and like it was a years-long conservation effort, like lovingly nurtured by like a few like very like kind-hearted conservationists in East Palestine, and like that's a dead effort now, you know. Like this is, I think that you look at this town and
derailed the salamanders.
They derailed the salamanders. I mean, they got what kind of shot do they have, you know? And like the town itself, I think
we'll see. Well, I think that's interesting. I mean, we're gonna see what the fuck happens to this place. And like, it'll be in our lifetime, so we can just watch it unfold. Kind of as far as like whether or not people stay there, because you'd be surprised. I mean, some crazy shit happens.
But to your point, I think like,
I'm just thinking. I agree with Josh in the sense like, if we get rid of PVC piping, like, what are the Blue Man Group gonna do to fill their show? Like that 45-minute section. Like That's gonna derail the whole Blue Man Group.
No more Blue Men.
That's the best part of the show. In my opinion, that's the best part of the show. It's great. It's like a live concert, man. It's awesome. It's so sick. They need that PVC pipe for that. It's just not gonna work without it.
I mean, that's what our electrical wiring runs through. Like our whole homes are like insulated by PVC piping. Actually,
straight up, our homes are fucking.
I don't know if that's entirely true. I think they're like in conduit, but I think conduit runs through PVC. I think it's like double layered that way. I don't know.
I mean, the stuff.
They should hire Blue Man Group to play in East Palestine, just like for the foreseeable future.
No, they should play so like a hope concert, like a concert for hope, where they replace the PVC with a more hopeful material, to say like they've turned a new leaf. They've left PVC behind them.
Or maybe. Wow. Or maybe the concert can be so that the people can get on board with PVC piping. So, like, you bring the Blue Man Group in there because everybody loves Blue Man Group, and then they're going to feel better about what happened.
Right, because we do love PVC. As complicated as our relationship with PVC has become, we still love PVC.
We love it. We love PVC.
It's a great musical instrument.
But I think...
At the very least, I don't know how much more important than that it is, but it's a great musical instrument.
I think, like, finally, like, the thing that can be done, I don't know if vinyl chloride can be expunged from our society as a whole. I don't know if PVC can be expunged from our society as a whole. Like, I really think those are the kind of the immovable objects in this equation, you know? Like, I think, like, it'll take centuries for us to find, like, alternatives, you know, and to, like, live, like, in a way that, like, is non-toxic, like, largely to build like a non-toxic society, to evolve out of like our current state. Like, it's gonna take centuries, if not millennia, if that ever happens. Like, we're talking about utopia, you know, but like in the meantime, like, I think what we can ask for is for a corporation like Norfolk Southern, for like a government that like is also like not done its diligence in protecting these people, for them to make sure that they get their money's worth in restoring their lives to some element of normalcy, you know, like they can move, like if they want to leave, that they can, because they can actually get some value out of their homes, or like out of like a lawsuit that like will restore them the value that their home of their home, plus like damages for like whatever health complications may come down the road, like people who choose to stay and like God forbid like they develop like cancer or whatever might happen, like drinking that water and breathing that air, like that these people are also compensated in a way that makes their lives feel like, I don't know, like a little bit more like whole, you know? Like, I think that's the only thing that can be done after a horrible incident like this. Like, I don't think you can ask the society change. You can ask for the people responsible to like really take that serious effort at like making things as right as they possibly can. And like that's, I think, like the grim situation that we face is that like this, like there was a town hall meeting or something on like February 15th, and like Norfolk Southern didn't even show their face, you know? It was the first meeting, right? Like the CEO just showed up in East Palestine, but like the first meeting that he had a chance to like say anything at, like they just didn't even send a spokesperson because they were like afraid of backlash and like violence and threats of violence that like they might encounter at the town hall, you know?
Well, they just knew whatever they were gonna say at the town hall was gonna get completely derailed, man.
Yeah. They knew it.
All right, what's next on the docket? Are we playing the album game, or are we doing something else?
Yeah, we'll do Y2K album redemption.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, let's derail this. Let's derail this conversation.
This conversation is derailed.
So we're gonna play a game next. This is a game of Y2K album redemption, where each of us have come in with an album from the past, like an older album from the 2000s or from the early 2010s that supposedly, like in the cultural eye, has faded in its glory since its release, is now washed, is antiquated, is corny because time has not been good to it.
It's whack.
It's just
a whack record.
It's become whack with time.
To be honest, it's a whack
like
record.
whack wine. And our job is to redeem that album because we still love it. We're lovers of that whackness, and we want to bring it back to its old state.
We're gonna find out who loves it and who doesn't.
Yeah.
We're this is a twist for this episode. We're actually trying to put these albums back on the rails. These albums have been derailed by time. They've been derailed from the public consciousness, and we're trying to say, let's put them back on the rails, get them back in motion, give them some more spins.
I have a lot to say about your records. Okay, who wants to start?
Ammar, why don't you start?
Okay, I picked the second Gnarls Barkley record, 2008's The Odd Couple. It was supposed to come out in March of 2008, and then some LimeWire asshole leaked the record, and so they put it out early on my birthday when I was 13.
Amazing.
So I've known this record longer than I've not known it, and yeah, that shit starts to make you feel old. Wait till you start knowing shit longer than you haven't known it. But yeah, man, I mean, this record, it's like pop psychedelic, like really like incredibly colorful sounds. Again, like Gnarls Barkley released one of the biggest tracks of the decade with Crazy on Saint Elsewhere, right? Their 2006 record. And to follow it up, they kind of went in the opposite direction. They just kind of developed these kind of moody, intricate sounds that like nobody really expected. They were like pop, synthetically 60s made joints that were like 2 to 3 minutes long, and they were all super catchy. They kind of faded out, just really a wild sound. And I remember when the record dropped, Pitchfork gave it a 7.2. And it was like the most lackluster review. Like they just had nothing to say about it. They were like, this is a very flat record. And like the Metacritic reviews were like a 75, and I was like, shit, people are not gonna remember this one. This one's not going anywhere. But I listened to it a lot. I would actually play Oblivion when I listened to this record. That was kind of my game. You know, I love pairing like you know how people pair like food with whack wine. I like to pair my video games with whack records, and so I was listening to a lot of Oblivion, or I was playing a lot of Oblivion while listening to The Odd Couple. But yeah, Josh was like coming up with this topic, and I was like thinking about some records, and I made a list, and this one just stood out where I was like, I don't know who's ever listening to this record again, and so I picked it really for that reason.
Why do you think it's whack?
But yeah,
in 2023, like, why do you think people like? What do you think people hear in this record where they're like, "Damn, that shit sucks"?
You know, I think a few things. One, it's really like an ahead of its time record. Where in 2008, it doesn't make any contextually, it does not make any sense. And now it kind of does. Like from the album art, which is like super like retro friendly, and like some of the songs that are very like, again, like they lean into a bag. Danger Mouse kind of just like comes at it. But for some reason, I don't think people really care about things that came out 15 years ago that sound like they should have come out today. As they want stuff that came out today that sounds like it could have come out 15 years ago to sound like it should have come out today. If you catch my drift on that, like we want shit right now, and that's not a record that people are gonna be like, that's like a timeless record. We need to be listening to it right now because it sounds like 2023. To me, it sounds like 2023, like completely. But people don't want that. They want Yachty. They want Yachty fucking going crazy. But yeah, that's how I feel. Well, how do you guys feel?
To me, I feel like the thing about this record that might be whack, if I'm like listening to this album today, is the Danger Mouse production. And I think it's good production, but I think the proliferation of Danger Mouse's sound in that time, like Danger Mouse like went and produced like a bunch of records for a bunch of dudes, right? He worked with like Cudi for like a bit, right?
He did Beck's record right after that, Modern Guilt. He did really where he got his most, where he really found his bag was doing the Black Keys records. When they did Brothers, El Camino, that's when like everybody was like, oh shit, this is a really like it sound for rock and roll. And so, but that kind of started the train.
I'll tell you why that's funny later. But I think Danger Mouse's production, I think, became like a commodified sound after this record. and I heard
He was
too
the Jack
much.
Antonoff of the 2000s.
Agreed. Definitely a Jack Antonoff type producer. He was a super producer after Gnarls Barkley, and I think that sound specifically has really given this like a timestamp. You know, it like dates this record very squarely in like the era when it was released. You know, and I think like that proliferation, I think like works to the album's detriment in its aging.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta hear what you gotta think. What you're thinking about this one.
This listening, man, I thought it was a terrible record. I hate to derail you, Ammar, but
Damn.
I thought it was
Damn.
such a waste of time. I'd give it a 2 out of 5.
Oh my
It wasn't actively like hard to listen to, but I thought there were a minimum of 12 skips. It's a 13 song record.
Holy shit!
What's
the one song you're saving on this 13 song album?
That last record.
The last song is so good.
Yeah,
Who's gonna save my soul?
right.
He's gonna
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you remember when they put that on? Do you remember when they put that on Breaking Bad? That was on Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
No, I don't. Because it's not that good of a song, man.
I looked up the lyrics of that song, and then I saw on the sidebar on Google like a Breaking Bad compilation album with Walter's face on it. Yeah, linked to
I
this
think it's
song.
I think it's like in season 1 or some shit. It's like very random.
It's a good song, dude.
I was excited. I was excited for that song because I was like, I'm like, I know this song, man. There's one that's like kind of like this. I was like, who's gonna save my soul? Who's gonna save my soul? And then I remembered, like, no, that's Beyonce. She did that last year. That's a way better song, man. This song is slow. It is boring as shit.
That's the thing. This album has no bangers. It has they came out with literally I think like pound for pound, bar for bar, the best song of the 2000s. Like fucking
Crazy's awesome, man.
Crazy might be the best record. And
what this experience told me, because I've tried to get into this album before, and I'm like, something about it's not clicking with me. And this time I was like, it's not on me, dog. Like I thought, like if you took this album and you took the first album and you took all the songs and combined them, they probably should have released like a 4-song EP and people would have said it's like legendary. And they should have just left it there. Because like I think half the songs on Saint Elsewhere are trash. And then this whole album was just like pure mid, skip. Like I didn't skip any of them. I listened to the whole thing, but I was like, man, like I want it to be over. The best bars were on Blind Mary, I thought.
Blind Mary's so good. I've been hearing Blind Mary in my head.
And I was gonna say
one of the worst songs on the record.
I was gonna say it's my least favorite song on the record. I thought it had the best lyrics. I thought there was a verse that had the best bars. It had the best bars on the entire record. Like one of the verses near the end, I was like, actually, that's not so bad. But the song itself, it felt like if you, instead of having live musicians, you had an automated set of the beat, like a Beatles AI with no real musicianship.
True.
And then just zero songwriting or lyrical talent. Like,
on.
That was like, I was totally not with it. I thought it was
talent.
Blind Mary?
Oh my god.
Marry Me Mary? Come on, man.
From Blind Mary, yeah, I agree.
Oh my god.
It was some weak shit.
Funny.
I thought this, like, for me, it finally closed the chapter because I was always like, man, I owe it to myself to try to like get into Gnarls Barkley.
Yeah, you.
And I'm like, no, man, I did it, and there's just nothing that I need to listen to less.
Yeah. Again, if it wasn't so thoroughly entrenched in my brain because I played so much Oblivion during that time, and it became my Oblivion companion record, along with Amnesiac by Radiohead, I would also probably feel the same. And I was 13, so it was like when you couldn't really pick the world. The record leaked, so it was on LimeWire. Like I had, like, it was so available to me. It's like a little like MP3 downloadable guy, you know, with a PC at 13. So like, I think that's why I was so attracted to it. But it's funny because like they never did a record after that. But like they're low key this like group that like, you know, they could have been around for like 10 more years, reinvented themselves, done something that like kind of matched Crazy Steez, because like think about it, you got CeeLo Green, who's like, okay, like if we're talking about just like the musicianship behind the band, right? You got CeeLo Green, who is a legend. Like he's a legend. Like come on, he's dope as fuck. You're not gonna be like CeeLo's not cool, or like CeeLo can't write, or he's got a great voice, he can do all this stuff. He's dope.
CeeLo's
and
awesome.
then you got this dude in Danger Mouse who like literally gave you the coolest mashup record that like anybody's heard, broke the internet. You know what I'm saying? And then like went through and just like did like pop rock numbers, with all these crazy different bands. Like, and then they also at their first like batch, they gave you the best track that you've heard fucking
of the decade,
years.
maybe the best track of the decade.
Right, and so then you have this weird album about their own weirdness, about their relation. It's called The Odd Couple, right? So it's like this weird, like CeeLo, I used to run with Dungeon Family. Now I'm working with this tall, lanky ass rock and roll motherfucker, and then they make this like weird baby of a record that just sounds like that, and like I just like I love that process and how little it resonated. And I only returned it when I'm very nostalgic or playing Oblivion, which I never do, sadly. I wish I did that more. But
yeah, it just didn't fit. It didn't fit into any special place for me. Like Crazy did. It's interesting because like I'm super into Crazy, and I guess some parts of Saint Elsewhere, and then I'm also pretty into the Lady Killer, CeeLo's solo album that came out after The Odd Couple. So I've always been like why does this one in between not work for me? And I don't know. It just, none of the songs, like it felt sort of like it just didn't really have an identity. And I didn't feel like either one of them were really putting their best foot forward. Like CeeLo was saving it for the solo material. Mm-hmm. Maybe Danger Mouse was getting ready for some other projects, and he's done other projects. I mean, like the Danger Doom albums and things. I think those are fucking sick. I think the work that he did with Black Keys right after was fucking sick. So it's like it's just like this weird thing in the middle of like good runs for both of them, where I'm just like this for what I don't know why it just doesn't work for me.
It didn't work for anybody.
I think this
Josh.
So I listened to this album a lot in college, and I had kind of the same. I had kind of the same problem with Will. Except I was a little bit more torn when I was listening to it, because I always loved a lot of the songs on this record, but I never loved the record as a whole. I always had like this love for Gnarls Barkley as a duo and for the music they created, but I could never get into their music, really,
Okay.
And I think it's because they're like such great songs that you'll encounter like throughout the album, like just moments in songs that are great. Like I love Who's Gonna Save My Soul. I love like Charity Case.
Charity Case is awesome.
Charity Case is a great song. Like awesome. A Little Better is a great song. Like Neighbors is a great song. I love these songs, like, and I'll like encounter them, but like the record as a whole, I can't listen to it twice in a row. I can't run it and then listen to it again. And
so back in the
go ahead.
On a quick note on that, back in the storage era, right, where you had to pick the songs like that you bop with on the iPod that you had, right? I like and again I downloaded the whole record. I kept like 4 or 5 songs, right? Like those are the ones that ended up staying with it. Like it's not a record you're gonna keep every song, right? And so that's true. Yes, it's like that where you find ones.
I have a defense for probably like the actual like the one of the worst songs on the record though, and I think that's Whatever. And I think Whatever is like it's a great song. I feel like it's a very I feel like it's a very cringe song also, because it's just like CeeLo singing like this, like he like puts on like this nasal voice and he's trying to sing like Blink-182 for like the song, and he's like doing like this pop punk like really obnoxious, like he actually sounds like Sum 41, and like just through it's just like this really annoying thing. Like in the first verse he says like "Shut up, mom," just like in this like very like emo like suburban like pop punk way, and then he like and like I think it's like a very annoying and like diminutive song that way. And like when I first hear it, like it's at once like trying to like bite that very popular sound, but also like to parody it in like the context of the whole album, where like I think like CeeLo talks about like way like deeper pain on his record than like that like kind of like teenage bedroom angst, you know? But I think like one thing that like that Gnarls Barkley and like CeeLo Green does very well is like bridge like the gap of like between very different pains that people grow up feeling, you know? Like I think like Whatever's a great example of that, because he's like singing like this parody of like a pop punk like awful emo like whiny fucking song, you know? And then like right before the chorus he kind of distills it down to this idea that like this kid that he's like acting as in that song, like ultimately like what's on his mind is that he's always alone, you know, and that he's like so alone that he's always been alone, that he never knows like when he's gonna not be alone. And I feel like that's the moment when like CeeLo's like, I'm like locked in with this kid, like now I am this kid, you know? Maybe like I was like making fun of you like 5 seconds ago, but now like I'm like with you, I feel you, like we are like world citizens, like humans together, like I also feel very alone, you know? And that's when like the song is very much redeemed in like all respects, you know? You feel like this like cultural clash, you know, and then like there's like this unity that comes in the chorus, you know? And like when he says whatever, then like it is very like cool because it's like a really obnoxious like like pop punk like right off like apathetic just like refrain, you know? But then like when CeeLo says it, it like redeems that phrase almost, you know, to say that like a dude who's like walked the world as much as I have, you know, like has like experienced as much as I have, to be able to write a record like crazy, you know? Like I can also say whatever, and like we can say whatever together. Like that's something that like helps me too, you know? So I think they're like really cool moments just enshrouded by like some like really unfortunate musical sounds, you know? And like and just like really lazy writing on some other ends, you know?
That song always reminded me of Dumb.
Yeah.
Will, did you just listen to that song or something?
I went back to it because Josh said whatever. I was like, I don't have any memories, and I listened to it 3 hours ago. Like, it was not the song that I thought it was. The problem was that I really had my least favorite was She Knows. She Knows.
Wow.
Which one is
I
She
was just
Knows?
like, it felt like the whole drum rack was like off time.
Yeah, it is a weird song. It's
Like I don't feel like it works.
It's like a weird, like it's like that Outcast thing.
They're trying to do, like,
I know
boom bap.
that,
Like
I
it's like a
know, she
Dilla
knows.
thing too, you know?
Yeah, it's like a weird. It's like that song, but the first lyric line is kind of cool. It's a good mouth. I mean, the problem with CeeLo is that like he can be so weird, but like again, like man, he's just sometimes he can do no wrong. Like
I love his weirdness. I love his his costumes and things are the best. He
guys
actually
wanna
is
shout
one
out
of
a
my
new follower?
favorite moments.
Real quick. We got a new
Oh,
follower,
word.
Dr. Mundo 87.
Dr. Mundo 87.
Yeah,
what
what's
up?
up? Let's just welcome
What's up,
Dr. Mundo to the
Doc?
stream. Thanks for
it's
showing
one of
up,
my
Doc.
favorite.
Happy to
That's
have
one
you,
of my
man.
favorite numbers.
Best CeeLo's handle, Dr. Mundo. He's a world doctor.
My man CeeLo came through.
Yeah, man. I mean, I love CeeLo's outfits. I love, like, he's got one of my favorite moments on all of Untitled Unmastered.
Wow. Oh, dude, yeah, so dope.
Which is, that might be my favorite Kendrick album. And CeeLo's got one of the best moments on the whole record. I love
Why
CeeLo.
not? Why not?
But I didn't feel like this was CeeLo at his best. Like, I felt like he didn't go all that hard, you know?
It's not in his bag.
It's cool you bring up
He's not in
Untitled
his bag.
Unmastered though, because I do feel like Untitled Unmastered is a very like Gnarls Barkley-esque record. I feel like Kendrick is doing like a lot of like CeeLo type, like Gnarls Barkley type writing on that record, you know?
Wow.
I don't know why. I haven't like thought about this very much. Like it's just like the first time I've ever felt this, but like I feel like there is a kinship between like Untitled and Mastered and like the kind of writing that Kendrick was going for there, and like just like what exists as like Gnarls Barkley, you know, and like the
Not
story
a
that they're
coincidence.
Yeah, a
telling,
little bit.
you know.
Not a coincidence that he's on that record.
Yeah, for sure.
I think he tapped him. I mean, it's Kendrick. Like, why would he be like, "Hey, CeeLo, jump on it because you sound good"? No.
Right. Yeah, it's because like
I
you're
mean,
like
he
you're
does,
a
yeah,
real
but
fucking dude.
yeah.
There's a reason.
Well, you got to remember, Kendrick he does have a love of putting canceled artists on his records, and CeeLo was very much canceled at
Is
that
CeeLo
time.
canceled? What?
Oh God, what did CeeLo do?
That was so. You guys remember the UNE&O controversy where Rick Ross was like, "Put a Molly in a drink." She didn't even know that. So Rick Ross got in trouble for saying that. CeeLo did that. CeeLo was doing that shit. He pled no contest. He pled no contest on that one. He got charged with that. He pled no contest.
Damn.
Was it Molly?
Yeah, put a Molly in a drink.
It was a Molly.
It's not okay.
That's fucked up. Yeah,
You need to consent to that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That'll fuck you up.
Yeah,
Molly is not a joke.
So
Molly ain't no joke.
Dude, that generation really was doing some crazy shit.
they're wild boys. There's some wild really boys.
Shit.
It's dark as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, and CeeLo's like my height and like really fat.
Yeah.
Really fat. The fattest.
So like
fat,
that's one thing too. I'm not saying
That's one thing as well.
but it's just like we would be the worst person to get date raped by.
Dude,
Jesus.
it's so sad because like he
just
knows
imagine
he's
if he was
ugly,
wearing
too,
that. Imagine he was wearing that bird suit. That bird suit. Like, oh, he's just wearing one of his weird. He's dressed in all gold, and he drops the Molly in your drink. Oh gosh, it's
terrible.
That could derail your year.
Terrible.
Okay. I want to.
CeeLo derailed some people. That's all I'm trying to say. He's a big derailer.
I want to talk about a different record.
All right, but you got a last word for this one? You wanna sign it off?
Will or me?
No,
yeah,
you
start off
do you
with
want to
yeah.
say like one last parting word for the album?
Well, you know what? I'll see you when I think about my most formative video game memories. You know, the ones that really made me the man who I am today. In the Shivering Isles DLC. You know, that's where that record takes me back to.
That's a beautiful
gotta stop
sentiment to
talking
close
about this. Okay. Well, before we talk about Smino, I want to go to Contra actually.
Okay,
Because
sure.
Contra similarly, like, you know, it's like
Came out same time.
Yeah, Josh. Let's talk about Contra.
All right, so the record I'm bringing to the table today is Contra by Vampire Weekend. It's their second studio album. Interestingly, it lost out on Best Indie Record of the Year at the Grammys to apparently a Danger Mouse produced album, which is Brothers by
Yes.
the Black Keys. Yeah, so they lost to the Black Keys.
Yeah,
Let's see who's winning now in history. I don't know.
Exactly.
Danger Mouse sucks. I never liked his music, man. Not any of his beats.
I actually really like that Black Keys record. I really do. Brothers is actually one of the first albums.
I've
into
never gotten into Black Keys at all. I've like never
I remember
listened to a good
there
Black Keys song.
there was a year where all I was listening to was Brothers, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and Blueprint 3. That was my year. that was my 2011 until Watch the Throne came out. That was it.
All right, so Contra, it came out in 2010, right? I did not listen to it in 2010. I didn't like Vampire Weekend in 2010. I probably started liking Vampire Weekend in like 2012. Like after Modern Vampires is when I first listened to Vampire Weekend. But even then I didn't go back to their older records, you know, like because I thought like that shit.
I'm gonna derail you real quick. Vampires is a 2013 record.
Oh, 2013. Yeah, thank you for the correction. And I think I listened to Contra for the first time when I was like in college, and like I like started listening to like Contra and like the self-titled debut Vampire Weekend in college because I was like, who are these guys? Like I really liked Modern Vampires of the City. I thought the songwriting was like just really cool. I thought like the lyrics were like really mysterious and like intriguing, you know. So I wanted to go back into their catalog and see like what else they had to offer. And Contra, when I first listened to it in college, I was like, this record is unlistenable because it's like so bubbly and like so full of like that indie like polish and like it sounds like a Phoenix record, you know, which like I never really vibed with. Like it was just this very bubbly, poppy sort of like.
Dude, yeah, they sound like fucking dorks.
They sound like fucking indie pop dorks, like on
They
this
sound
record.
like dorks.
It was impossible for me to listen to this record in college because like this does not sound like cool to me at all. Like there is no ambiance that like I get from this. Like I don't want to live inside how this record sounds, you know. But then, like, I don't know when I started getting into it. Like, honestly, I might have gotten into it after college. I needed to be, like, 24 or something to, like, listen to this record and actually enjoy it, you know? Because I think at that point, like, I, like, stopped trying to, like, I stopped needing an album to feel, like, very edgy and, like, grungy for me to enjoy it. And I felt like I needed that for a long time in my life. And, like, I approached this without, like, that expectation. You know, and I listened to it for like just like the sounds, the stories, like the images and whatever, and like it was just like it was a more palatable record for me to listen to, and it started making a lot more sense to me, like the songs, like what they were saying, like it became a lot clearer to me, like the picture they were painting with the record, which is like a very confusing one, you know, like it's not a clear image. Like I don't think that like. I think like what Vampire Weekend does really interestingly on like especially their first two records, which I think are like supposed to be kind of considered as like Dr. Mundo says you do look like you listen to Vampire Weekend. No offense. Yes, thank you. And
Mundo nailed it.
Got him.
I think what they do on the first two records is like they create like this world of like this very like preppy like Columbia College, like Columbia University kind of world, you know? And it's like a world full of like secret societies, like these people who are like born to like these like very powerful people in society. You have like diplomats whose like daughters are like in the same school as them, but like they're also like very influenced by like skateboard culture and like punk and rock, and like they're trying to like find a place for themselves in like that world and that tradition of like punk, really, you know, of like rock and roll and like especially like punk, you know. They're trying to be like a post-punk band as like the
Clash,
right, literally the Clash, right? And they're trying to like, but they're trying to do that as like indie preps, you know.
Yeah, the Clash at Harvard.
Yeah, or Columbia. Yeah, but like it's like and like I think they do it in a very interesting way because they like don't shy away from like the question of like of privilege and like the sheen that comes from like that world of like academia and like money and corporation, you know. And I think like that's like what makes them poignant, is that like they inhabit that world and they paint that world where like I think every other punk act and like a lot of like rock and like punk aspiring acts today like are so allergic to like even like the aesthetic of that world that they don't engage with it at all, except to say like fuck you and like fuck that world, and like they don't engage in nuance, you know. And I think that's one thing that Vampire Weekend does like very, very compellingly. I have like some like songs that I'd like to like bring up, but like let's just open up the discussion. What do you guys think about the record?
I'll jump in first. Honestly, man, I really enjoyed this listen through. I've known this record at least since 2011, right? A year after it came out, maybe even 2010. And I remember buying both of the albums in high school and thinking that the debut album, the self-titled, was a better record. I remember really enjoying that one a little bit more. I
think that's kind of the consensus.
Yeah, those songs have some more cultural staying power, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But this album has some good like songs for their career, like Horchata, Holiday. Holiday was a big one that was on like commercials and stuff like that. Like that was one of their breakout songs. And I agree with you. I disagree that there wasn't ambiance. I think it is a very clear kind of ambiance.
Definitely.
Like there's a real world that you kind of live in. That like there's a real like atmosphere that you're putting on. Like in a weird way, Contra kind of feels like, to me, it makes me think it's like a Christmas album between Horchata and Holiday. Like both of those kind of, it feels weirdly like a Jamaican white boy Christmas.
Yeah, for sure. For
Like,
sure.
But
And that's what they're going for.
But it works. It works. And now, the only album of theirs that I really listened to is Father of the Bride. I didn't listen to them. I completely gave up on them by the time Modern Vampires had come out. I was completely past it. So I don't even think I've listened to that record through even once. But
Sleeper record, dude.
It's this one was nice to go back to, and it felt like Father of the Bride. It sounded like this is definitely the same band, but it feels like it was more raw and like some of their. But like some of like the cool breaks they have, the live instrumentation, I really enjoyed that aspect of it. Especially right after listening to The Odd Couple, where it was clearly not live instrumentation, right? Like some of those stops and starts felt really cool. I did think like some of the guitar riffs and things didn't quite grip me in the way that Father of the Bride does.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've kind of learned and improved since then, but like the roots of what was making them a good band was there, and it was the only thing like that, I would say, at the time. So it was the best version of that you could get at the time. The fact that they've improved on that since is not a detriment at all. Like if I want to enter that sound, and I would say there's like 20 days a year where I want to be there. This is like, it's nice to know this is a good alternative. And not only, like, there's more than one record to go to. I can go back to some of that raw material as well. So I really enjoyed this listen. For sure.
Ammar,
how do you feel?
So when we talk about video games and records, I think you'll like this one, Will. I played this a lot when Assassin's Creed 2 came out. That's what I was I was bumping Contra when Assassin's Creed 2 came out. But anyways, yeah, I mean, I love them. Like they like related to me more than any band had at that age, because like I grew up like wearing polos and shit, and like
Ammar was a fan. He was a fan of the Oxford comma.
Yeah, exactly. I was and like musically, I just always thought they like understood like that like preppy nerdy hipster. That's cool, like better than like it just spoke to me so I think more than really any music actually, which is kind of weird. They're one of my favorite bands ever. I love them. And so this record though, I just constantly remembered how frustrated I was every time I heard it. It was like listening to something that you hated. I remember every time I heard Horchata, I would just spaz out and be like, this is a fucking awful song. You know, I couldn't stand it, and I thought it was so over the top, and I was like, I felt betrayed by them. But then like fucking by song 2, I was like back on it. Yeah, I was like, okay, this song is so good. Like,
right?
They're right there. And there's so many moments on the record where I feel that way. Like, I love Cousins so much. Like, it's one of my favorite songs.
Great song.
And then like, let me grab the track listing real quick.
Holiday.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing.
No, I mean, Holiday's cool. Holiday's like a great vibe, but like Run. Oh my God, I think Run is one of my least favorite Vampire Weekend songs ever, and like I've never gotten over that feeling. But anyways, I think that's part of the charm of this record. The album art to me is like so captivating in this weird way. It kind of like started this like really crazy trend. Like it's like an album art ahead of its time, where it was just like a weird photo of a model wearing like this polo, but it was like already vintage, right? And like if you look at kind of like the color and the aesthetic, like literally for the next 10 years of even like artist photos, like they're going after this vibe that they just found in this random thing, and we're like, hey, let's make a record. And then this chick that was in the album art sued their asses, like, you can't be using my photo like that. Also, a great bit of lore on this record. The video for Giving Up the Gun starred Jake Gyllenhaal and
RZA.
Little John. RZA's also in it.
And some
RZA's
other crazy
also
people. I think there's one other even crazier dude in there that I'm forgetting.
It was well. I mean, they definitely like knew what they were doing. I think it's, if I had to rank my records for them, I would put it probably at 4, to be honest. Like, I think, like Will said, the first record captures this like immediate majesty. I think from top to bottom, it's like so close to being amazing, like almost like so listenable. I think there's a few songs like Bryn that I don't really fuck with. But it was also an interesting record where one of the songs wasn't actually on the record that I didn't like. It was like a UK-US version thing where they dropped it on one. So anyways, love that record. Modern Vampires, will definitely go back to it. I think you would really enjoy that record if you like Father of the Bride. It's much more palatable. It's like probably their most palatable record. They like dropped the weird sounds that Rostam was just like coloring. And they just made it much more like condensed.
Yeah, the only song I know from that one is Dying Young. And,
yeah.
Great record.
Despite telling my brother who was playing for me, trying to like, I was telling him like, no man, Jesus is the album of the year. Fuck your record. Fuck Vampires. I don't give a fuck about that shit.
I mean, come on, dude.
But despite me trashing Diane Young and not having listened to it for 10 years, I still know the hook.
Yeah, right. And then
sure.
I think you'd also
sure.
really like Hannah Hunt. It's like Hannah Hunt's like a anyways, I love these guys. I think this record is like their most kind of just like marred, but also the highs are so high. My favorite Vampire Weekend song is Taxi Cab. It's my favorite song by them. So like there are moments where you get there that like they just totally understood like how to bleed into their sentimentality, their dorkiness, their feeling of comfort, right?
Mm-hmm.
The great thing about this record and them as a band is that they can make you feel so much comfort in a moment with their song, and I always admire that about them because that's really fucking dorky. So yeah, it's a good record.
Can we pause for a moment?
But you know what?
Wait, hold on. We got a question from a chatter.
Okay.
It came in a little bit ago, but I wanted to let Ammar get his word out. Dr. Mundo 87 asked, "What do you guys usually talk about, and when do you usually stream?" So Dr. Mundo, we normally stream Monday nights, starting like 9:30 p.m. Central Time. What do we talk about, guys?
We bring up topics. So we're all former teachers and/or tutors, and so we prepare a class. So whether it be like current events or like music discussions or like I'm going to be talking about like psychology and video games, and we're going to get into that in a little minute. But really, we just come with different topics that, like, I guess conceptually, we're the teachers who are telling you about the shit you won't hear about at school. So I don't know if you had any cool teachers back in high school. If you did, hopefully they'd be able to talk to you about some dope ass records. Like that's what we're trying to do.
Damn, it's so lame.
We're trying to be
brand
those
us as
teachers.
the cool teachers.
We're so underqualified to be a cool teacher. None of us hold any of the requisite.
Lately, we've been talking about like a lot of current events, like big events in the news, and we wanted to pivot away from that a little bit and open up to like just like the shit that we like and the shit that we normally talk about in like our actual conversations with each other. So we're talking about like records today. We're talking about like we're gonna play a fun game about psychology later on that like relates to video games. Like we talked about like the chemical spill in Ohio for our first portion because like we thought that was a story worth talking about, and there's a lot of interesting aspects to it, but like that's kind of what we try to cover is like what's happening in the world. If we like find ourselves connecting with it enough, like we'll bring it on the show, and then like we also just want to talk about the shit that we like to talk about,
And honestly,
we're really talking about anything.
Yeah,
honestly,
anything.
Dr. Mundo, this is a new show. We're on like single digit episodes here. We're still trying to figure this shit out and work on the format, but like we're three really good friends who've known each other for more than a decade, and we don't get to talk enough. So this is just like our excuse to like build this into the weeks where we actually get to chat. And we thought it'd be fun to just do it, on stream, put it out onto YouTube and etc. And kind of, we all do music and have art projects too. So we want to build like a social media following and things like that. Just being blatantly honest here.
Yeah.
But
Might as
yeah,
well.
we're trying to do the most and keep it entertaining, and you're still here, so hopefully we're not fucking it up too bad.
All right, so
Dr. Mundo.
if we can go back to the album for like just a second, there's like, so I wanted to talk about 2 songs on this record that I think encapsulate what I think make this record longer lasting. And I think it's one of the things that Vampire Weekend does really well, and I think they do really well on this record. This record especially, I think like part of that is like, I hate to like reference Joyce just for no reason, but like there's like this thing that Joyce said about like Ulysses and like Finnegan's Wake, that when like asked about history and going down in like literary history, what a writer does in order to write themselves into the halls of history. And Joyce would respond to that question, it's the riddles that you leave in your writing. It's the questions that you leave like the critics coming back to, trying like desperately to answer. That's what gives you that staying power, is to like get critics worked up for decades and centuries trying to answer like, what the fuck was he saying here,
That's my dog.
And I think that's one thing that Vampire Weekend does really interestingly well on this album, where like they don't give you very clear answers. Like one thing that Ezra will say about this record is that like compared to Father of the Bride, apparently Father of the Bride was inspired by like him going to like a Casey Musgraves concert, right? And him going to that concert and being like, I was really touched by how knowable the songs were, and like how well I could understand like who was singing and who they were singing the song to. It was like they were very knowable, approachable songs that way. And he said like going into Father of the Bride, I wanted to write a record like that, where like I knew who I was singing to and I knew who I was singing on that record, because he felt like he had never done that before on his records. But like I think that's one of the things that always like of course like confounds and like leaves the viewer, like the listener, feeling a little like at a distance when you're listening to Vampire Weekend records, because you're like, the atmosphere is great, but like what the fuck is he talking about? Like what is this song about? Like a song like White Sky, right? And that's a song I wanted to like bring up, right? Like the song White Sky, like if you like run through the lyrics, it's about like a walk through Manhattan, like downtown Manhattan, on a lunch break, right? That's like really what the song is about, right? And he's not really singing to this girl, and like who is he? He's like some like omniscient narrator that like stands for like, I don't know, like the voice of Manhattan or something, right? But like, I just want to read like the first like verse and hook, because they're like it's such a weird scene, right? It goes, an ancient business, a modern piece of glass work, down on the corner that you walk each day in passing. The elderly sales clerk won't eye us with suspicion. The whole immortal corporation's given its permission, right? So like it's like, I don't know, this woman like going to like a building, buying something from like from an elderly sales clerk, right? It says something about like the whole immortal corporation offering its permission to these people for them to like just be there, right? In like inside of these monoliths that like populate Manhattan, right? Next 4 lines: a little stairway, a little piece of carpet, a pair of mirrors that are facing one another, out in both directions, 1,000 little Julias that come together in the middle of Manhattan. Then the hook: you waited since lunch, it all comes at once.
It all comes at once,
right? And like the question is like, what is it? Like the sensation of like history, the sensation of city, like the whole weight of like Manhattan like just rushing into your head all at once, like who you are, where you are, like what this building is made of, like all of
and
it,
it's
like,
really it's a wordless chorus, you know.
It goes it's just the cacophony of like noise, just like rushing. It's like the sound of Manhattan rushing into her head, like the sensation of life, and like a historical through line and like an architectural through line, just like penetrating her mind. I just think it's like a crazy piece of writing, all set to like this like really insufferable indie rock pop soundtrack, that like isn't even that bad.
I didn't pick up on that shit at all.
And like you don't have to at all listening to the record is the crazy thing. It's like listenable enough that like you don't have to listen to it, You know?
No, I know what you mean though. Like the ending song, I think you're a Contra. I'm like, what does he mean? Like in this kind of sense, like, what is a Contra?
It's
what
a
do you
very
talk?
interesting.
What do you think I am?
Yeah,
Like,
right. That's like one of like the infuriating things about Vampire Weekend is that like they're like doing this preppy thing, and like you want to like shit talk them so badly because they're so like up their own asses. They're so literary. They're so like academic. They're so like white or privileged or whatever. But then like you're confronted with a song like Contra, and you're like, "Fuck you!" Like I want to know what that means. Like I want to know what you're talking about.
I actually think some of it is about that. Like,
right.
some of that, I think that song is actually about like, oh, are you like? I don't think you're about the t-shirt life and about this, that, and it's like, I think you're a Contra. Like, I think you're not about that life, man. Like, I think that's something of what that song got into, but I didn't read through the lyrics. I probably should have, but it made me think of that. But
think, like,
it's an interesting record.
To their own like profession, they say it's a nod to like the action like shoot 'em up game, like the arcade game Contra. They came out in like 1989 or something.
Yeah, no, I played those games. Those are fun.
Yeah, that's like what they say it's about. But like, there's always like a grammar answer.
There's layers.
I think in like what Vampire Weekend does.
Diplomat Son.
They always have grammar songs.
That one was fun. That was my favorite song on the record.
Diplomat Son is a great record.
That's what I'm saying though. It's like if they have a song called Diplomat Son is a Contra something political, it's so many things. But they do that well. They walk that line.
It's also
it felt like very Suburban Rebellion.
Right. And I think it's like self-aware, you know?
Yeah.
And like not trying to like co-op a sound that like is not theirs, that like they know they don't belong to and that they won't be accepted in, you know?
Yeah, I mean that one gets closer to any of them because they sample like MIA.
Right. Yeah.
And like Rossum really like is like, hey, well I'm POC, so I can get away with it. And so it's like that's like the record where they really start leaning into more of like a world sound. And then, but there is kind of like a backlash there. I think that's why
That's one thing I really enjoyed. It's just like they did do some sampling. They do have the live instrumentation, and you know Ezra's not afraid to lay on the auto tune on this album. You know, like they're trying new things. Like you know, people think the new records are more experimental, but like they actually tried all those things pretty close to the beginning. So just credit where credit's due on that type of stuff. I thought that was really cool.
I think the last song I want to talk about, if we have time, is the last record on the song, I Think You're a Contra. And I want to bring up, like, the ambiguity in meaning, right? Like, there's a lot of, like, mystery in, like, what Contra they're talking about, right? There's, like, the Contra-Sandinista conflict, right? That, like, they could be saying, like, you're, like a U.S., like, military plant, right? You could say, like, you could also say like the Contra in the video game, right? Like it's just like I think that's just like cute, you know, to like say that the song is like about that. But if you ask Ezra himself, like he's given a straight answer to this question before, and he said that like Contra is like a word from Romance languages that literally just means against. You know, it is like the state and the feeling of being just against, like feeling that like that conflict and that opposition in status, right? Like in like a state. And I think like that I think Contra is like a really great like summation piece in watering down, simplifying like that class struggle that exists in Vampire Weekend and like in their hearts, which is that like they're preppy and they want like the good schools, they want friends with pools, at the same time that they want like rock and roll complete control, you know, like they straddle that divide. And he like paints this portrait as if like he's like struggling to like be in love with this girl who is about like two things at once but like really can't like pick a side, you know. And then like it dissolves at the end like with like this like really cool like unifying but also like very frustrating message, right? Which is like never pick sides, never choose between
Don't choose between two, but I just wanted you.
Right. And like there's a redemption there, right? And then there's like, don't call me a Contra until you've tried. What does that mean?
I think that's a great bar. That's the bar of all bars. Right? Like don't call me an enemy. Don't call me against you. don't call me an enemy of what you believe in until you try being an enemy of what you believe in. Then tell me if you're really against the shit that you think that I'm against, right? Like, just like I think that's some deep shit. I think that's really cool. But yeah, that was the part. Like the friends with pools. You're not a contra because you like that shit. like I hate you. Like actually, some of this life that we have, this preppy shit. Like I accept I'm part of that, but at the same time, like I don't think that's all that. And like. Until you think maybe it's not all that, like, don't knock me for just being a hater of your culture, of your white privilege culture. Like, I know all that shit, but I try to see a bigger picture of the world. Try seeing the bigger picture, and then tell me if you still believe what you believe.
Right.
I think that there's some real bars there, man.
And it's funny because Ezra is like very aware of like the world that they're like, and like how he's portraying himself too, because like he goes on stage touring for this album wearing like a Polo Ralph Lauren like fisherman's vest over like a seersucker like button down shirt. Like he looks like such a fucking prep. He looks like fucking like Gatsby, like 1920s prep, you know? It's like such old school prep, and he's singing all this crazy shit about like, I don't know, like being against the culture, but like for the culture, inside it, outside of it. Like I think it's like a very like frustratingly like unsettled album, you know?
Yeah,
and like
it's definitely some white hipster shit.
Yeah, yeah, definitely some white hipster shit.
It totally is.
Yeah.
It's really. And then the question is, white hipster shit, is that derailing the culture or is that the culture itself? Right? Like, that's where we're at these days. That's what we're trying to decide.
It's just funny because like nobody wants to be told that they look like they listen to Vampire Weekend, you know?
I'd love that. I always love that.
Yeah, whatever. I don't give a shit.
Oh,
Pedro
my homie came through.
Yo.
Pedro 3-inch, what up?
What up?
My man came through.
Pedro,
yeah,
3-inch?
Back. Yeah, Pedro 3-inch.
Pedro 3-inch. You know how it is.
Yeah.
3?
Yeah, this dude listens to Vampire Weekend.
This is why I'm holding up a 3, man.
Yeah.
3.
Pedro 3-inch.
3 inches. 3-inch. He says
Sorry,
totally.
Pedro.
I don't know what he's saying totally to, but what's up?
We don't know.
He totally has 3 inches.
Yeah.
We don't know.
I mean, I'd assume you had at least 3 inches, Pedro.
He's just talking about like minimum. Like it never gets below 3 inches. You know?
But like,
which is not bad.
Extends, like,
that's not so bad.
It extends like Wukong's staff to just like grow out. Let's move past it. Let's derail this conversation. We're done with it.
Yeah. All right. Well,
we're
you
not
got a
running.
record for us.
Yeah. All right. So Smino's Black Swan. This is an exciting record to talk about because of the 3. It's got by far the most lyrics, and it might be the least lyrical.
They should call him Smino 3-inch.
Smino 3-inch. He might have called himself that on the record. You didn't even know, because Smino says so many words with so much wordplay so fast that it's hard to even know what the fuck he's talking about. But yesterday I took some time for the first time to really just sit and listen and read the lyrics as I was going. He's pretty much always talking about pussy and weed. Yeah. It's like pretty much every record is about pussy and weed. And booze too. There's some great booze songs. Edgar Allan Poe'd up for sure. Uh-huh. This record, I don't think most people know about this record, but to the extent that they do, Smino kind of fit into like that extended Chicago scene. He's from St. Louis, but he spent a lot of time in Chicago. Worked as a Chicago artist. And so he kind of like was picked up in those articles like, hey, you like Chance the Rapper? You like Vic Mensa? Here's some other artists you should try out. Right? Smino was kind of like in like those articles. And this is his debut record. He had one mixtape before this, but this is the debut record. And I don't think that many people connected to it because it doesn't have a Chance feature or a Vic feature. But honestly, man, like, he goes off on this record. There's some songs that are just straight bars. And some of these beats are absolutely insane. Monty Black is the key producer on this one. And honestly, the album just like... it just goes and goes. Songs flow into one another, so sometimes like if you're not paying attention, you don't even realize the track jumped to the next one. And I don't know how to put it. He's like the Busta Rhymes of R&B. Like he's got the bounce, he's got flow, he's got melody, he's going high, jumping
He's
into his
rapping.
falsetto. He's got plenty of raps. Lots of wordplay, lots of alliteration, things like that. Words blurring into one another. He's a really technically gifted artist, for sure. Lyrically, though, there's not so much going on. There's definitely some mentions of like the Ferguson riots and things like that that were really, really cool. Definitely some songs about like, I don't know, like loneliness and anxiety that I enjoyed. But and moreover, some of his features have the best lyrics of the entire album. Especially the women. The female features on this record are just great. They respond to what he's saying and go really deep. One of my favorite songs on the entire album is Glass Flows.
Yeah. The Raven Lene one. Yeah, she's dope.
Raven Lene,
She's great,
yeah.
That was when she was like a kid. That was like one of her first tracks. Now she's popping off.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. I didn't know her outside of the song.
Her last record is fucking sick, dude. She's dope. Yeah.
But to me, this album feels like quintessential R&B. It's got real nice raps, real hip hop MC presence. It feels like an Outkast record. Like, if only Andre were on every beat, like this, it would be one of the best projects we've heard in a fucking minute. Like, but yeah, for me, I didn't get into this record right when it came out. I think I really got into it about a year ago, maybe even a little bit less. But the first song I really heard was Spit Shine, and that was the one that got stuck in my head. And he just goes off on that one, like such a nice falsetto on that. And then the bars are really, really quick. And I kept running that one back and back and back. And then eventually I was like, let me check out this whole record. And now I'm inspired to check out the entire discography. But that whole Chicago soul scene kind of got left in the underground. For sure. After some time, like after Chance fell off of the Big Day, his Big Day was completely derailed, and it derailed all the artists beneath him, moving up with him. So I haven't met that many people outside of Chicagoland that even really know Smino.
Bro, I thought Smino. I asked Josh earlier if Smino is from the UK.
Shit. Yeah. Okay. No idea. Yeah. So yeah, but I want to open this up to you guys. What are your thoughts? Was this a new experience for both of you then?
Yes.
Okay, so
I think
Ammar, go for it.
Smino once before.
Yeah, I was Smino was from the UK, so shout out to the fact that he went to Columbia College in Chicago. Yeah. Living that art dream, made it out. Super cool title, you know. First of all, Black Swan without like any vowels. I think that's how it's stylized. Not just stylized, but actually the record, which is like big ups because you're playing with a lot of games there. You know, people are gonna miss your record because you're like, I'm gonna spell it differently. Also lowercase. And this is 5 years before that shit was cool. Like Ariana Grande did that on Spotify, but like before that, artists weren't. So this is like I was talking about Odd Couple, and I say this a lot about everything. But I always compare to like our moment now, and I'm like, this record has like a feeling of now, which is great. Like the sounds that are there, they're very tight, cohesive. I loved Anita. That was like the first. Spit Shine like caught my attention. I was like, okay, this is a banger. And then when I got to Anita, I was like, oh, this guy's just awesome. Like he just gets it. So there were moments of that where I was just like, okay, this is a cool ass guy, and he knows what he's working with. He knows his voice. He knows how to like kind of like tell a story too. Just love songs, you know, they're really pure. They're just about what people want, so they're very relatable too, which is better than what we can say about the last two records we were talking about, right? Because this is like something that there's a lot of tangibility. I mean, when we talk about like songs that really like get to the heart of it, it's normally about like the eye of your attention, you know, like the thing that's attracting you. So I think he does that really well, in a way that's like kind of tasteful, a little bit like unabashed. Sometimes it's like got this spicy flair, which is nice. You want that in an R&B artist that can rap too. I'm excited to listen to it more actually, because I was listening to it as much as I could today. So I want to hear the back half of it. I'm like excited almost. Like a lot of the times you hear a record, you're kind of like, oh, okay, like this is cool. I don't know this guy. We'll check it out. You know, my homie said it was dope. Then you get warmed up to it, and then you're like, oh, okay, like there's a follow through here. So I think one album that it kind of like reminded me of, we were talking about it earlier. It was like a conversation about if we should mention it, and I don't think it's sonically sounds like this, but the way that I heard it, I was like, oh, this guy's kind of doing something different. The way that Gambino did with Awaken My Lover, it was just like this weird record that sounded and again, I don't know Smino, his stuff, but I almost assumed Smino was like a trapper almost, like, or just like he had like a hip hop sound. But then this record that I was hearing, I was like, oh, this cat's groovy. Like he's got a lot to him that's much more earth tone. You were talking about the Outkast kind of inspiration. Like sometimes Outkast blurs that line really well. And so that's what I kind of liked, is that he's in his bag, but it almost feels like he's trying something new. Like that's a funny thing to have for an artist, where you're like, oh, this is different than what he does. I don't know what the fuck he does. He probably does some crazy shit that's not like this. You almost get that vibe from him, which I like.
It's still very internet age, you know.
Yeah.
Listen to this album, I agree. I think like what I like about it, and like also like dislike about it, is that like the lyrics, right? Like the substance of these songs is very much like a lot of these songs are about the same thing, you know? Like it's about like a girl that he's trying to like meet up with, or like hook up with, or that he's hooking up with, right? And like what they're on, you know? So he's just like, I got the weed, I got like my douce, and I'm with my girl, and she's spit shining, you know?
It's very explicit. It's very explicit.
I love spit shine as like a new as like a euphemism, you know. It's like I've never heard that one before. That's a crazy one. I think like that's really cool in what he does, because like I think it's like less about like the material. Like I think like what he gets into like on this record is like, this record is like very musical, you know. Like if there's like a lot of substance lacking in the lyrics, like the music really makes up for it, because it's like dense, like not obvious. It's like extremely rhythmic, it's extremely melodic, but like in like very like unobvious ways, you know, that I think like it goes to like that Chicago soul sound, but also like elevates it in a way that like I don't think a lot of the Chicago soul like, or like Chicago neo soul, backpack, SoundCloud like rappers of that era were doing with their music all the way, you know. I think he does it in like a really cool way, where he's rapping, but like his raps are almost like he's like part of like a jazz ensemble, you know. Like he's like just going off the dome, like trying to hit like the fucking rhythms in the craziest way. He's like rapping like a drummer, you know. It's like a drum solo in like a jazz like quintet or some shit, you know. So like I think that's really cool what he does. Like I think musically like it's very, very dense and like awesome material. I think a lot of the sounds on it have like dated poorly, because they're like that like sparse like lo-fi kind of like chill wave like neo soul Chicago backpack like arrangement, but like it's like bleeding into like bigger movements. Like I think it was like very much like a SoundCloud like style and movement for a while, and it still is to some extent, and like I always hated like that sound to some extent, like just like the SoundCloud artist.
Why?
Like what?
Why? Yeah, why?
I just think like, I don't know, maybe it's like trying to be like too seductive. Maybe that's like what I have like against it.
Well, the reason why I say why is because Will mentioned a couple artists that like I think are important, because it's kind of like there was like Will, you mentioned Vince, obviously Chance, but like I feel like that you're or like Vic. What you're Vic, and so what you're telling me, Will, is that Smino was like kind of like in that conversation a little bit, or like adjacent to those guys, which is dope. But the reason why I asked Josh why is because like I think we were pretty close to that, like as far as like that was like a hometown sound for like
it sounds very much like a Columbia College album.
Yeah,
like
right.
Columbia College Chicago, like walking around Columbia College's campus, like South Loop, like just like hearing the shit that people were like playing around that campus, like going into those apartments, going into those dorms. I grew up like in those dorms in college. Like I went to DePaul. I spent my first year of college like South Loop in like on State Street right next to the Columbia College dorms. Like there were Columbia College students sharing like my dorm building with me, you know, like they were in my building. I met a lot of Columbia College students. Like my best friend freshman year of college was a Columbia College student, you know, and I would hang out with him. He would like walk over and we would like listen to music, and he would like introduce me to his friends, and like I would hear the music they're working on, and like a lot of it sounded like this, you know. This was kind of like the movement that was bubbling up, and I think Smino is doing it like in a really, really mature, very like very, very highly polished way. Like he grew up and graduated out of that movement and did it better than anyone that I heard like in my time at college who was doing this, you know. But yeah. I think like maybe it sounds a little too backpacky, you know? Maybe it's like trying to sound a little too intellectual, you know?
Mr. Vampire Weekend out here.
Yeah, I know. It's like it's a ridiculous complaint. I don't like it's crazy because like I like Raven Lene too. Like I think Raven Lene's sound is really cool, and like Raven Lene is also really cool because she does like this like lo-fi like soul like R&B like garage rock, like bedroom, like home recording type sound that like Steve Lacy has like done so well in like in like cultivating, you know. Like I think Smino does a lot of the same sound, but like somehow when like Raven Lene does it, it feels much more connected to like that core sexuality at the heart of that sound. And like I think like when she sings it out, like I feel like a song like Sticky, which is like a great Raven Lene song from like, I don't know, like 2017 or whatever, right? Like that song, like to me, like I feel like it really like encapsulates the like the message of like that feeling of like sticky, like lustful, like vice like sexuality, you know. And I think that's a lot of like what Smino is doing on this record, but I don't know if like he really sells like that feeling to me as convincingly, you know.
Maybe it's because it's from like a male perspective.
It could be, yeah.
And it's not as enticing, you know.
Yeah, it
like,
very well could be. To me, sometimes Smino just sounds like a drunk dude who likes to smoke a lot of weed and like.
What about you, Will?
Get top.
I kind of agree in the sense that like the reason like it's not as intellectual as like Vampire Weekend and deep in that sense, right? Like a lot of these are stories about him like, hey, I got the bottle, like you should come through. We're gonna like, and then he describes like, and then we had all these different positions and it was a great time. Like that is like 2 or 3 of the songs for sure. Right. Like
Netflix and Duce.
But that's cool.
Netflix
too.
and Duce, yeah. But it's like, but what I think, I think there are some qualities about that I still really enjoy. And in a similar way to Vampire Weekend, it's nice that I can just get into that space. Like, unlike a lot of hip hop, this album, it really doesn't feel negative towards women at all. You know? It feels very pro-woman to me. Now, Smino as a rapper is not always like sometimes like I wouldn't say the women are objectified, but it's like he's trying to get laid for sure. Like there's many songs where he's definitely trying to get laid, but there's twice as many female features on the record as there are men, so you get the female perspective. Like again with Glass Flows, like Raven Lene saying, "I think I made you too special. Like I think we shouldn't have done this so quickly. Like." You're kind of done with me off on your own thing, and like I'm still thinking about you, and now you're calling me up because you want to get fucked again, and like I probably like, but now you're in my head again. Like I don't even want to be dealing with you. You shouldn't even be here. Like I think there's some good depth that gets beyond beyond the typical rap, like, you know, is she or isn't she type shit that, like, I don't know, J-Lo would do, or like, you know, the Ashanti records with Ja Rule. Right? Like, they get a little bit deeper than that for sure. And then again, it's just like the fucking wordplay, the harmonies, like the near gospel element that comes in with how much is going on musically. I think the music is really what redeems the record the most.
For sure.
I think the lyrics are I'd agree, the weakest part. Although the wordplay certainly not. And some of the songs that are straight rap songs, like B-roll, like Edgar Allan, no, not Edgar Allan. Well, Edgar Allan Pulled Up is great. The guest verse on that's better than he is. Father, Son, Holy Smoke. Those songs are great. Amphetamine, the 8-minute closer. Him and all the features on that are just fire.
There's an aim. Oh, that's the last song. I haven't gotten to that yet.
Yeah, it's a great ending.
I love 8-minute closers with a bunch of motherfuckers on the track.
Yeah, it hits hard. That song, I think her name is Via Long. The song with Via Long.
Rosa, Long Run. That's a good one. That's
Long Run.
That's like a pop. That one's really poppy.
That one's got the most references to like the Ferguson stuff and things like that as well, though. So definitely some nice things there. So there's definitely a lot going on. I know the album after this is called Noir, and it's supposed to be a bit sonically different and lyrically different. And then his album from the end of last year, Love for Rent, is I know he mentioned the cover is like is a reference to self-care, because on all 3 records he's getting his hair done. But on Love for Rent, he's doing his own hair, and the idea is it's supposed to be self-care. I've only listened to those other 2 albums like once, and I didn't quite get into them the same way, but it was like I was still trying to pick this one apart and like try to fully understand that. I feel ready to dive into the other ones now, though, because it's just like this record, I've kept coming back to it over and over and over again. This and like I didn't pick these other albums because they're way too current, but like Masego, Baby Keem, and Don Toliver, all of these records that just like some of these songs I'm just fucking in love with this. Like
Baby Keem is way too recent.
Yeah, it's way too recent for a conversation like this, but they kind of get into this sound like where they blend the rap and R&B in this like really new and interesting way. And I think Smino is probably the most technically gifted out of anyone trying to do that. Masego might be the best in like because he's got good instrumental moves as well.
He's good.
But Smino's very, very fucking talented, man. And so I'm just like for me, like you said, like I'm just excited. Like you're excited to finish this album. I'm excited to go to the other albums and keep digging. Like this is gonna be an artist that I feel like I'm gonna stick with for a good while. And I feel like he didn't quite get that shake because Chance fell off so fucking hard. Like all
we can't talk about Chance.
It's just, but it's just because it's like, but just to say, like the 3rd, 4th tier artists really didn't have much of a chance after that, right? Like,
yeah, for sure.
Smino was part of that camp.
Also, my boy Juice WRLD died though.
Yeah, Juice WRLD was a different type of rapper though.
I almost picked that record too, but that record, I think people.
He was putting Chicago on the map, like.
That's what I'm saying. Like we just after he died, it was like just like the scene was like who was coming after Juice WRLD.
Yeah, I mean,
there's like some like great underground talent in Chicago still, like popping off though.
I mean,
like,
but Juice WRLD was doing
love Chief Keef.
Juice WRLD was doing numbers with fucking.
Yo, Chief Keef is on one of the new Skrillex's 2 albums from this week. Chief Keef is on one of them.
Yeah, but Chief Keef is also just like Chief Keef is also like great. I don't know if you guys agree. Like, I don't know if you guys listen to Chief Keef or keep up with Chief Keef at all. But like,
I don't know if I agree or if I don't. But I know he's the status. Don't disagree with it.
Chief Keef is like holding down like Chicago drill like single-handedly. Not like single-handedly, but like he's like the pillar that like stands. You know. And then there's like Lucky. You know. I don't know if you guys listen to Lucky at all in Chicago. Like that's a dude that like holds down like
I got
Chicago
friends who do
drill,
for
like,
sure.
underground
Lucky,
shit. Like,
yeah.
He's got a lot of respect in the scene, but like they're not like of like this ilk, you know.
Yeah, but
this
what
is
I was just
Columbia
saying was
college
like,
music, you know.
what I was saying was like Juice WRLD was doing top 10 records.
Yeah, right.
He was doing
Well,
literal fucking numbers like with pop stars, mega
he
stars.
got found by Dirk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was a big piece of it because
Dirk.
Dirk really he took the deal, the record deal, and kind of like joined up sort of with Meek Mill and in that scene for a little bit, and then wound up. I don't think they're that close anymore, but like that gave him like those like he got that full like record label treatment, and so then the artists that he brought on that were good in like in that scene like were really able to do a lot, and Juice was like he was that guy. He was like, I remember reading that, like, dude, like a month before he died, there was a XXL article. He was the feature. He was like the cover of the magazine. Mm-hmm. And they were just, it was him and his manager. And his manager was just saying, like, I think Juice WRLD could be the next Drake. Like, just from the sense that he's positioned as a pop artist in the right way for the right type of staying power. Like, there's a good audience. It's this nice blend of like rap and like emo music and things like that. People are really enjoying how this is coming together, and there's real opportunity for him to be like a take-home name, bigger than all the other artists. And I'm like, that could really be true. Yeah. And then he passed away, and like, and you know, the proof is now in the pudding. It's kind of like we're trying to honor him like he was that.
And also like the genre that he was kind of finding, like, has just completely dissipated in his absence. Kind of, in a way. Yeah, maybe it's not true.
No, I mean it's moved in different ways. Like
it's moved though.
Right. It's moved on.
Who gives a fuck about like Tekashi and like?
No, but it's like, what about like the Kid Leroy? Like that was someone who Juice worked with that got famous through Juice.
Sure.
Has had huge records with like Justin Bieber since then, right? Like
but even like Uzi and Cardi, like I think carried the torch a lot. Like they're like Juice is like a little bit later generation than like later generation SoundCloud artists than like Uzi and Cardi. Yeah. But, like I think
like
they carry that like
by like a year.
Right, exactly. Like
maybe
1 year.
like
but
8
that
months.
A year makes like such a big difference.
It's such a big difference. They are technically like a little ahead, but I am looking at them. I'm looking at both of them because I really think that like, one, I really don't think that Cardi ever like had one. I don't know if he will now. Maybe we'll see what happens with this shit that just popped off with them. But I really don't think he had like one. Uzi definitely did. Like Uzi is like definitely on that level where like he was doing numbers. People know him. They fuck with his EXO Life Tour is like one of the biggest songs. Like he had like a certifiable fucking hit. Playboy still doesn't have that track in his arsenal. And then Uzi, but like what we're seeing with Uzi is like these last couple records, like nobody's talking about him. Like that's like an identifier for me is like if you're moving the needle on like a pop level.
Ooh, I Just Want to Rock is all over
that's like
XM radio.
That's like the biggest song in the world.
It's like his biggest song since XO.
It's like the biggest song in the world on like TikTok and everything. Like I Just Want to Rock is like the biggest song in the world.
Yeah. That's great news.
Plus, I just have also like another Uzi like remix that's like going off like on TikTok. Like it's huge. Like
okay, good.
Uzi's got like a bunch of songs popping off right now.
That's good.
I just heard fucking Watch again. I Just Want to Rock.
I Just Want to Rock. Okay, I'll listen.
But I just heard Watch with Travis Scott and Kanye and fucking Uzi because it's like Uzi's so in the moment right now because no one's listening to that for Kanye for Travis. That song's kind of trash, to be honest. But like,
dude, what's crazy though is like Rolling Loud is coming up and Uzi's not even a headliner and Cardi is. Like that's like the respect that Cardi has in the game right now is like Cardi is considered a bigger artist than like Uzi because like WLR was such a fucking like seminal record. Like it's like the most like it's like I think for a lot of people it's the most interesting and complete hip hop record that's come out like since God knows when. Like it like really defined like a new wave, you know?
That is
and like
wild.
A lot of dudes are like coming out cloning like the Whole Lotta Red like Cardi sound. Like that's a huge like there's a huge like movement that's blown up like behind that in like the wake. But like Cardi is like headlining day one of Rolling Loud and like Uzi is like like number 2 with like small letters behind like future, you know, on like day 3 or something.
I think they fucked that up.
I think they probably fucked that up too.
I think they jagged the shit out of that.
It's just fucked up for them to not like, if like one of them is headlining, they should both headline, you know?
I mean, I really think that Uzi is on a different level. I think Uzi to me is like the only guy that feels like he might be like the next like Thugger to me, like where he's just so wild. His shit is so fucking off the cuff.
Motherfucker put a jewel in his head and then lost it.
And
no,
like
he didn't lose it.
He didn't lose it. Got fucking.
No, he just took it out because like it was like no, he like took it out. He still has it. Like the reason why it's out is because like it was like he like was getting an infection.
Yeah, it's
like
not.
He just couldn't have it. Yeah.
He's got to heal that shit, man.
Yeah. It just wasn't good for him. It was getting to his brain, man.
Jeez, yeah, dude. I mean, yeah, I gotta listen to this song. I Want to Rock Now.
It's a wild one.
I gotta fucking listen to this song. Oh my god. Okay, well, rest in peace, Juice WRLD.
Indeed. But yeah, man. I mean, just
segment?
Yeah, I guess just last word on Smino. It's just, I mean, really, it's just I'm excited for the rest of it. I'm glad that I got to introduce you guys to it, and like, it's the only album of his that I think where I was looking on album of the year, Metacritic.com, and like users are writing in to give it 100s. Because they're just like, this album is fucking perfect, man. I go to this when I need like a safe space.
Black Swan
like,
or the new self.
Black Swan. Black Swan.
Okay. Cool.
People love Black Swan, man. It's like it's got a huge fan base.
Yeah. Of
diehard fans.
Nice.
I don't know how big Smino is, but he's got a dedicated community on that one for sure.
Nice.
What's crazy is he got a better sense of rhythm than like Andre. You know.
Yeah, probably.
Like the way he cuts up his flows and like his cadence and like just the way he attacks a beat.
That's
and, like,
totally debatable. That's
like,
it's very debatable.
I like listening to it. Like I think Andre is like the best rapper of all time. Like listening to Will's record and like the Gnarls Barkley record. Like all it made me want to do was listen to fucking Outkast again.
Word.
You know? Between those two records, I just really wanted to listen to Outkast, and I was like looking back at records. And I was like, damn, Stankonio came out in fucking 2000. Before any of these records came out, you know, and that might be like the most unimpeachably timeless record of all time. The only, you know,
Outkast. Like, I mean, that record. Man, yeah. Let's just do an Outkast day.
Yeah,
we can talk about Outkast for fucking
an Outkast
millennia. We will. We'll do an Outkast day. Let's fucking do it.
That sounds fun. I love that. Yeah,
that's a great idea. There's too many bars to like talk about, you know, like too many moments to like go back and be like, fuck.
Y'all know the skew it on the Barbie story?
No, tell us.
Maybe I'll save it for Outkast Day. But Raekwon,
chunk of like kangaroo. No, don't tell us now.
Raekwon there's a great story about Raekwon for that one.
Deliver this to your audio. Get on mafioso. Jesus. Yes. Okay, I can't wait for that story.
It's awesome. All right, guys. So let's derail this segment and jump into our last one.
Yeah.
This one is gonna derail your minds. That's the goal. So I have been playing like a jewel to the head. It's gonna derail your mind. So I've been playing Persona 4. I mentioned that I think last week. I also found this crazy video. Shout out to, I think it's hiding in. I'm gonna double check because I want to shout this guy out. Persona Ultimate Analysis. His name is Hiding in Private. If you like Persona, if you've played through the games, this is definitely a video you have to beat in the game if you're gonna try to understand it. But this guy, he took a lot of time to make a fucking 15.5-hour analysis of the game and what it means in terms of like Japanese literature and lore, what it means in a Jungian psychological perspective, and then how all the characters relate to their different tarot cards. He did a musical analysis with a score director who's worked with Disney. Like, this guy put in the fucking work, you know? And so I watched his whole series. It's only been out for a few months. It's already gotten like a few 100,000 views. Like, I'm good for this guy. But in honor of that, like, I've been doing a lot of, I guess, like, research into psychological perspectives and things like that. Listening to some controversial thinkers like Jordan Peterson on these topics, and so one of the things that I thought was really interesting is, in some ways, not the political ways, because it's like, you know, it's a whole different subject, but like in terms of the psychological analysis ways and some of the religious beliefs and spiritual beliefs, Persona, Dr. Peterson and Carl Jung are actually they're actually pretty consistent, pretty remarkably consistent. And so I decided to make a game. I took 20 quotes from them, and the goal is to figure out is to guess who said what. And so I've got 20 quotes for you guys. If you guessed it right, you're gonna get a point. Otherwise, you're not. We're just gonna run through it. And
are we competing against each other, like me and Ammar?
Yeah, so we're gonna take turns. We'll go back and forth who's gonna guess first. But yeah, the three options are either it's a quote from Persona, it's a quote from Jordan Peterson, or it's a quote from the man himself, Carl Jung.
Oh, so you don't know either?
I do know. Yeah, I've got it listed.
Okay.
I've got it listed.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let me just say, I've rarely played the Persona games. Think they're super dope. Love backseat driving, watching Will play them. And then definitely Peterson, me don't really see eye to eye, but or Young for that matter. But I think Young has some interesting ideas. I think Jordan has some ideas. So I'm very interested to play this game. Let's do it.
Oh, let me introduce myself also. I've played Persona 5. That's the only Persona game I played. I liked Persona 5 a lot. Hard to say I loved it because I fucking hated it. Like, the last, 50 hours of the game were such a fucking dredge.
Did you beat it?
Yeah, I beat it. Yeah.
Jesus.
On the hardest mode first run. But,
that's fucking insane.
That's not, important to mention. And then Jordan Peterson, I've tried watching 2 of his lectures, and I thought they were pretty fun, but I haven't found the time to actually sit down and watch the whole things. And then so I withhold any opinion on Jordan Peterson at this point. I don't have a real opinion about him because I'm not informed.
Wow.
And then Jung, same thing. Never read any Jung. Heard he's a cool guy.
You didn't read that Jung?
Yeah, never read any.
I think
it's myself.
This is a good way to play this game though, because I think we're gonna be very confused.
I'm just gonna guess Persona on everything.
I'm so illiterate on all 3 of these that I'm just gonna do terribly. But let's do it.
All right, you guys ready for number 1?
Let's do it.
All right, I'm gonna have Ammar take this one first.
Okay.
All right. So the quote is, "I think I need to start being more selfish."
Definitely P5.
Josh?
Persona.
These are from Persona 4 though.
They're not all from Persona 4. They could be from any of the games. Persona the franchise, yes.
Oh, okay.
I think I need to start being more selfish.
That's the thing I've said at times to myself. I'm gonna guess Jordan Peterson.
So that's 1 point for Ammar. That is a Persona quote. That's from Ayane.
Ayane.
Yeah, she said the Sun Arcana. She's a musician. She wants to play. She wants to be the lead trumpeter at the concert. She gets passed up, even though she practiced.
What game is that from?
That's from P4.
That's P4. That's
nice.
Funny.
All right, number 2. Without a meaningful life, all you have is suffering, nihilism, and despair and self-contempt. And that's not good. Josh?
Persona.
That's definitely fucking Jordan Peterson. That son of a bitch.
2 points for Ammar.
Damn, I
Yes.
suck at this. I thought it was a curveball, man.
All right. Today, I talked with a young student who spoke her mind, free from the influence of those around her. It was an attitude and an example that we as adults can learn from. Our primary concern should always be to protect these children's futures. Ammar.
I love that. I think it might be Carl Jung. I'm just gonna roll with it. Let's see.
I'm gonna go with Dr. Peterson.
That's 0 for either of you guys. That is from Persona.
Wow. Crazy teacher.
I love that. I love that because it was such a beautiful thing, and only Persona could really get at the heart of that.
You want to make it less beautiful? This is said by a politician who's trying to win votes in town. And everybody says, I think he's only saying that because he's trying to win votes in town.
That's so funny.
Which game? P4?
P4.
Classic. Classic.
Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. Josh?
Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes.
Yes.
I'm gonna go with Jung.
I'm going with Jung too on that one.
Yeah, you guys got it. It was 2. It was time for him.
Nice.
Josh has got 1. Ammar's got 3.
Nice.
That's a good one.
All right. I don't really get what being strong means, but I'm gonna start by not lying to myself. No more being scared of everyone, hiding my hobbies, staying away from people. Ammar.
That's some Persona shit.
That's
right
gotta
there.
be Persona, man.
That's Persona, yep. So
Yeah.
so Josh has got 2, Ammar's got 4.
I'm not catching up at all.
Well,
All
you
right.
might.
If you were able to reveal the best part of yourself to the world, then you would be an overwhelming force for good. Josh?
I'm gonna go with Damn, that's a hard one. This is a hard one. I'm gonna go with Persona.
Persona?
Can you repeat it real quick?
If you were able to reveal the best part of yourself to the world, then you would be an overwhelming force for good.
Wow, that's great. God, I hope this isn't a Jordan Peterson quote because that one's mad decent, but I'm gonna go with that. Buster.
That's another point for Ammar.
Damn.
It's Jordan
Son
Peterson.
of a bitch. I hate Jordan Peterson. Because
So it's
he
five-
always
five-
follow. Well, the problem with Jordan, he always follows that shit with some like neoliberal just assholery, like some just bullshit like anti-trans statement. Like he'll say like half the right things, so people are like, "Oh, this guy's fucking cool," and then he'll just say the dumbest shit about like masculinity being more like important than feminine. Like why? Like why? Like what? But anyways, okay. What's the next
Is that
one?
what he says? Masculinity is greater than femininity? Is that like a quote?
No, I wouldn't say that is not a quote. No. But
I'm gonna run up his latest interview.
but there's definitely some those are topics that get covered. I wouldn't say that's the right context.
Yeah, he basically. What I was thinking about is like he is against like socialism or something. So he'll use like he'll use like that kind of fodder to be like socialism is for pussies and it's like a very feminine energy, and then this thing right here, which is better, is more masculine. Like he'll just like devolve things into things so people can be like, oh, that's cooler because it's like he'll. Yeah, like he did do that in a recent interview, like where he just did that. But anyways.
All right. A particularly beautiful woman is a source of terror. Ammar, you got this one first.
Oh, is it me? I thought it was Josh.
No, it's you.
You got this one first.
I'm gonna go with P5. I think this is like a hilarious P5 quote.
I'm gonna go
All
with
right,
Jung
Josh?
on this one. I think Jung said that.
Jung, my man Jung, spitting.
All right, Josh is catching up on this one. That is Carl Jung.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's a good one by
He's
Jung.
a lecherous dude.
That's smart.
5.
That's smart. What did he say? He
A
said something dumb.
particularly beautiful woman is a source of terror.
All these smart old dudes said that in one way or another, man. They
Oh
all
my
said shit
god,
like that.
Jung, what the fuck? Okay.
Go into the unknown because you already know what you know. And that's not enough unless you think you're enough. And if you're not enough and you don't think you're enough, then you have to go where you haven't been.
It's my turn, right?
Yup.
That's Persona.
Persona.
That might
Mark?
be Dr. Peterson.
That one goes to Ammar. That goes to Dr. Peterson.
God damn, man.
3-6.
Why did he say it like that? Why did he say it like a 6th grader, man? Why did he say it like it was translated from the Japanese?
That's
For
awesome.
like children
I
to
mean,
understand.
That's a
He's-
great.
Dr. Peterson tends to speak off the cuff. He does not plan his lectures. Really.
He just fucking just talks shit, and he does say some. That's what people love. He just says some dope shit. He'll just say some dope shit off the cuff. The people want that.
Man, he sounds like a dude with like a fucking Persona mind castle.
It sounds like
Alright.
a P5 character.
I think instruments have feelings too. I was treating it as an object before, probably because I wasn't looking at the bigger picture.
That's P5.
That's P4.
P4. Sorry.
That
I'm gonna
same
give
girl
Josh
as
the
before.
I'm gonna give Josh a bonus point. Yeah, it's the same girl as before.
No, come on. That's who I was.
Yeah,
that's why I said
bonus
it too.
point,
No, you can't. No,
bonus
no,
Persona
no, no.
4.
Bonus
No.
point. But you
No
spoke so
bonus.
sloppily, man. Where's
No
your
bonus
attention to
points.
detail?
I was hearkening to the same character, Carl Jung.
All right. 4-7.
All right.
There are many people who are in the midst of happiness. They just don't realize it.
Oh, this is me first, right?
Yep.
That's gotta be. Jordan Peterson.
I'm gonna go with Jung on this one.
This one goes to neither of you. That's
No,
from Persona.
Yeah.
This
That's
is
a
from
good
the
one.
woman. This is from the woman who introduces herself as death itself. So she's got a lot of thoughts
Wonderful.
on happiness and life and death and sadness.
Nice.
Nice.
All right. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. Ammar, you're first. By the way, we're
Knowing your
halfway
own-
through the game. Amar's up 3.
Knowing your own darkness could either be. It could really be any of these guys at this point. That's the beautiful thing about this game. Because I want to go with Persona so badly. I'm gonna roll with Persona on this one because I don't know. I have no idea.
I'm gonna go with Peterson again.
Wow.
This one goes to, once again, neither of you. That is Carl Jung.
Ooh,
That's Carl just laying down the bare bones facts.
Damn.
he did
said
do
it so
that with that
plainly.
one.
I expect Carl Jung
Yeah.
to use very florid language. Yeah,
Mhm.
but he's not that kind of guy so far.
No.
All right. You are not the master of your own house. There are spirits that dwell within you.
That's Zach.
That's awesome.
Josh, you're first.
I'm gonna go with. You are not the master of your own house. There are spirits that dwell within you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with Peterson again.
Young.
This one goes to Josh. This is a classic Peterson line.
That's a good one.
He's referring. When he talks about this, he always says he's referring to Carl Jung. But this is the idea of the subconscious and sub-personalities that Carl Jung developed. But the idea that
so he basically cheated and fucking stole some shit from the guy that I thought he was talking about.
Yeah, but he got it down to 2 sentences that are just fucking lit. So all right, we're at 5-7. Josh is
such a bitch.
Catching up. All right. 2 in harmony surpasses 1 in perfection. Ammar, you're first.
2 in harmony, Peterson.
2 in harmony surpasses 1 in perfection.
I'm gonna lose. Because at this point, I'm just fucking grasping.
Yeah,
like at this point, I have no idea.
Yeah. I have no access.
P4, P3, early P2, P1. OG Persona quote. Fucking Altus. That's like the Altus CEO quote.
Josh?
The quote was 2 in harmony is better than 1 in perfection.
That's right.
Jung. I'm gonna go with Jung.
Oh, sorry, Josh. This one goes back to Ammar.
Damn.
That is Persona.
Is this a music thing?
Which one? Which one was it?
Don't tell me this is a trumpet thing.
It says it's from Persona 4, but I don't recognize. I think this character's from Persona 3. I think it's a mistype. I think it's Persona 3.
Damn, so we even got the right one.
I said P3, yeah.
You
I brought it back.
P3 in that.
I played the first.
In that barrage.
Will let me borrow. Like one of the only games I ever went back to on the PlayStation 2 was P3 because Will let me borrow it.
Did you ever finish what was that crazy game where you walk around as that dude just like talking to all the people in town? Shenmue.
Oh god.
No, not Shenmue. Not Shenmue.
Shenmue is the fucking Chinese ballet, bro.
Deadly Premonition.
Communism. Deadly Premonition.
No.
You're thinking of like the OG Heavy Rain.
No, you're like one crazy like dude. You're like an Asian dude walking around like towns talking to a bunch of people going on crazy side quests. It's
Nobody
just a game.
knows.
You played it back in high school. Shenmue, exactly. Yeah.
You said Shenmue. Bro, yeah, I played fucking Shenmue. I love Shenmue, dude.
Do you guys remember the score? I think it's 5-8, but I'm not 100%.
It's 9.
I think it's 4-8.
No. Yeah. 4-8. That's true.
No, Josh he's definitely on 5. He's definitely on.
I have 4. I have 4.
It was 5-7.
Yeah, he's up 4.
But I have 4.
You have 4 now?
Yeah, it's 5.
So that's 5-9. 5-9. All right, 5-9. All right. Still enough time to turn this around, in theory. In the face of disaster lies opportunity for renewal. Josh, you got this first.
In the face of disaster lies opportunity for renewal. Anyone could say that, man. Everyone said that. What the hell?
I've said that.
I'm gonna go with. Jung.
I'll just go with Peterson on that one.
It's Peterson.
That's for neither of you guys. That's from Persona.
That's the amazing thing about Persona. To be honest.
Some life lessons from Persona, man.
Such
for
a
sure.
banger. It's such a banger.
All right.
Everyone has said that.
Every form of addiction is bad, no matter the narcotic be alcohol or morphine or idealism.
Got him. A zinger. I'm gonna go with Jung.
I'm gonna go with Peterson.
That one goes to Ammar. That is Carl Jung.
Damn, Carl Jung, man. That's a modern statement.
Nah, that language, the narcotic, the morphine.
Narcotics, morphine.
Yeah, that one was the only one.
Yeah, I'm fooled.
I thought that was a bit of a giveaway.
Yeah.
You would have said smack, dro.
That's just because I think people talk like that because I'm reading a book from 1860.
Communism.
Man. I just think people talk like that now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
all
confused.
Right.
I'm living inside of a mechanism.
So 5-10.
Mm-hmm.
If Ammar gets them all wrong and you get them all right, we'll do a tiebreaker.
Dr. Mundo wants to know what's the punishment for losing. I can't believe Dr. Mundo is still here.
My man Mundo holding on.
Yeah.
Dr. Mundo, you please think of a punishment. I hadn't thought about that.
Please suggest punishments, man.
Yeah, I'm definitely I'm good with that.
Yeah.
There must be a penance.
Number 16. I'm a practical person. I'm not too bad a carpenter. I can renovate houses.
I'm a practical person.
That's fucking funny.
I'm not too bad a carpenter.
Mm-hmm.
I can renovate houses. Josh, you're first.
Persona.
That is Persona. That has to be Persona.
That is Dr. Peterson.
Shut the fuck up. You're not a carpenter. Get the fuck
It's
out of
Dr.
here.
Peterson.
Everybody likes to call themselves a carpenter, man. Fucking Christ complex.
I think that's I think that's either from his study of Christ or his study, I think, of Abraham, who might be a carpenter as well. Toy maker?
Abraham, baby.
Abraham was a toy maker?
I think he might be.
That would really surprise me, man.
No, I think he might be. I think he might be.
Abraham was making toys for his
For
kids,
Isaac,
the
for
first
little
kids.
Isaac. That's what makes the story
first
especially
child.
tragic, man.
Oh no.
Yeah.
All right. If one does not understand a person, they tend to regard him as a fool. Ammar.
That's a classic Jung.
I'm gonna go with
Gosh.
Jung as well.
That you guys are right. That's a point for each of you.
It's the word fool. Oof. They don't say it like they
Well,
used
you
to.
got to remember that most of the main characters in Persona, they're part of the Fool Arcana. The group they are known as the Group of Fools. The
What?
main group
which
of Persona 5. The main character in Persona 5 is his codename is Joker.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So they play on that pretty heavily. In 4 and 5, they're the Fool Arcana. Maybe even in 3. It's a big part of it. The Fool is known as the one who goes on the hero's journey. Only the Fool can become the master. Because the
Yes.
Fool has the humility to try something that they're bad at. That's the only way to get good.
I love that. I love that. It's one of my favorite things in life. Just remind yourself that every fucking day.
All right. Number 18. It makes sense that a witch lives in a swamp.
Whose turn is it?
Okay.
It's my turn, right?
It's your
Josh, you're
turn.
first. Yep.
Yeah, it makes sense that a witch lives in a swamp. That's some Peterson classic misogyny.
I'm gonna let you have Peterson because it definitely is Jordan Peterson because he's
Oh my
about
god,
to
Dr. Muno
fucking.
is saying the loser has to dye their hair, bro. It's not that serious. On like a Monday
no, I'll
night,
take
just
him
like
up
a,
on that.
like a psychology
I'll
trivia
take
show.
him up.
I was thinking about
That is a
dyeing my
good
hair.
one. That is a good one, actually.
You're not.
Okay.
You're not
well,
even competing.
No, I'm
I
not.
can't dye my hair.
What
I'm
are you
taking
talking
minoxidil.
about?
I can't dye my hair.
You can put some of the. He's not saying you have to bleach it. You can put some of the shit that you can wash out, bro.
Oh my god, like temporary dye.
Yeah, a little.
Yeah, you
Dr.
should-
Muno,
little
would
pink.
temporary dye suffice?
Next week though, he's got to do it on next week's pod.
Next week's pod, I come with temporary dye. I colored my hair.
Okay, I'm gonna say. So Josh said Peterson. I'm gonna say that is Persona. Why
I'm
not?
probably wrong.
You are actually right, Josh. That is a Peterson
Yeah.
quote. It makes
I
sense
knew
that a
it.
witch
I
lives
knew
in a
it.
swamp.
I knew that because
Nice.
he's rationale and why fucking Karl Marx is Hitler or some bullshit. Like I know what he was about to do there, but I let you
Alright.
have it.
Dr. Muno says
Alright,
yes, no
alright.
need for bleaching, dog. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
then fine.
exactly.
Yeah, I'll go to Target. I'll grab some like temporary color.
fucking
Fuck
cop
it,
some
yeah.
little. I was
It's
always
easy.
trying to do that. Can I
Dude,
get
you
that
won't
little
even see
blue?
it like in this lighting. Like it's too dim.
Well, you just have to put on a lot or go
No,
with
you
pink.
no, you have to
I
turn
gotta
on your
get like a
you have
light.
to
I
turn
gotta
on your
bring my
overhead
ring
light.
light over here. No, I gotta
Yeah,
bring
Yeah,
my
you
ring
have
light
to turn
over
on
here
your
next week.
overhead light.
Fine.
All right, we've got Well, we got. I want to do the last one. We're gonna do 3 more, and then we're gonna
Okay,
call it
sure.
up. I'm gonna give you the tiebreaker anyway because it's just such a good quote.
Cool.
Okay.
Death as deliverance. That is not an ideology anyone should ever embrace.
Death, as deliverance.
That is not an ideology anyone should embrace.
Ever embrace. Yes.
Is that the boy Young? Carl Jung?
He's young.
I don't know. I don't feel confident with that one actually.
Yeah,
This one's a little tough. I think it's a little.
That
can even be little Persona, 'cause modern.
Persona cards
Yeah.
dark like that.
Josh, I was speaking to the mic, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was saying that could even be Persona because Persona gets dark like that.
Right.
So, final. Yeah. All right. So that one's going to Josh. It is a Persona quote.
That's good.
It's a Persona quote.
Nice.
That's a good Persona one.
Dr. Mundo is saying now losers should wax their pits live on stream. That's a big no. Hell no. For some stupid ass little game with no punishment plan. Next time we're gonna play a real game and we'll actually come up with stakes like that. I'm down to do that. Game. I'm down to do that with a game that we're like really trying to bet on.
I feel like that would be so painful.
It would be so painful.
For you. I don't want. I think can Josh win?
It's so painful.
What's the score right now?
Oh no, not for this. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. We already did the dyed hair. That's cool. I can do that.
I get to pick the color.
It is 9 to 11, and I want to make that tiebreaker worth 2 points.
What? 9 to 11? I had 15 fucking points.
Yeah, no, you did not.
I had 14. It was literally like, or something like that.
You have not gotten any of the last 4 in a row.
Oh,
You've missed 4 in a row here.
That's true. I've been playing pretty badly.
Grace said she likes that idea and that I should do that. Grace,
hey.
No, we're not doing that. Okay.
All right.
So painful.
All right, here we go. Josh, this one's yours. Don't lie about anything, ever. Lying leads to hell.
Classic Jung.
Is that your vote, Ammar?
No, you're first.
He's trying to lead me in directions. Don't lie ever. Lying is a path to hell.
Don't lie about anything ever. Lying leads to hell.
I gotta go with Jung.
Go with Jung.
I love that. I'm gonna go with P4.
That is a Peterson. That's another classic Peterson line.
Oh. So I've won. Shit. I officially won.
All right, yeah. So I'll just give you guys the last quote then.
Yeah.
Just so you guys can hear it. Okay. A man who has not passed through the inferno of his passions has never overcome them. And
Jung.
That's from our boy Carl Jung.
Yep, that's a Jung.
Yep. So it came out 9 to 12.
I was gonna guess Persona on that last one. I'm just gonna let it be known.
So it came out 9 to 12. Ammar, you pulled it out just by a little bit. You guys did manage to get more than 50% of them, so you got, if it was totally random, it would have been a third. You guys would have gotten like 6 or 7. Nice. So Josh did a little bit better than that. Ammar, you did twice as good as that. You did a good job trying to pick these guys apart.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good game.
That was fun.
Fun game.
That was awesome.
All right, I gotta dye my hair next week. Gotta not forget to do that.
I think you can go with perhaps I think pink would work very well.
Pink?
Pink.
Or blue. I'm thinking blue or pink. I don't know. Green's kind of goth.
Green.
Pink, baby blue.
Green or pink?
Green or pink?
Oh, green or pink?
What do you think, Mundo? Green or pink?
Yeah, Mundo gets
what do you think,
the
Dr.
color.
Mundo? Or 3-inch?
Is 3-inch still here?
I don't know. I'm just shouting him out. I'm just shouting him out. Maybe
my
he's
homie
here.
Pedro 3-inch.
Homie Pedro.
Yeah, I have no idea if he's here. Mundo says pink. All right, it's pink then.
Pink is a good color.
Yeah, pink's the one.
That's the last color I want to do my hair.
You might have to hit up the Sally
man.
Beauty.
I'm gonna look like Machine Gun Kelly.
You can get that. It's like almost like
yes, you will. Oh, that's gonna be great.
Roll or die.
Whatever.
You know what MGK is doing these days?
No, he's not doing it anymore. He's off there now.
Man. No.
Oh
all
man!
Right.
Another was that a 2-hour? Was that a 2-hour banger?
2.5.
Another 2-hour.
We're at 2:35 right now. Yeah, this is our longest episode yet.
I'm telling you, we have to start fucking playing video games if we're gonna stream for this long.
Oh my god, we got a compliment from Dr. Mundo. He says, "Good stream, guys." Holy shit! No one has ever said that. It was a good stream.
Dr. Mundo, catch us. We'll follow Josh's thing, but catch us on Mondays around the same time.
Yeah.
We'll look out for you. And then we want to know more about you, Dr. Mundo.
We're also
Definitely.
we're up on YouTube. We've got an Instagram. Do we have an Instagram?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
Twitter.
Yeah,
that.
and
We
you
got
know
a
we're
link
trying
tree.
to
You can
Our
follow us there. Yeah.
TikToks are actually where it's at because
we're looking.
He says we should play
Well,
horror games. I agree. That would be super fun.
dude, I'm
be
so
super
down.
fun.
I get
Dude,
so
I think
scared.
we should play Minecraft. That would be sick. Do
Yeah,
we
we
have
just gotta start.
TikTok? This guy wants to know, do we have TikTok?
That's what I'm saying. We do, and our
We
TikToks
would-
are wild.
Ammar
We'd
was our
have
TikTok
better- we'd-
manager. We were supposed to
Yeah,
have
we're-
TikToks out. We're gonna.
No,
we will have TikToks. We're gonna have
we
TikToks.
have 3 of them. What do you mean? We have 3
Yeah.
TikToks.
We have
and
3
we're
of them
gonna
for
have more.
5
TikTok. You got
episodes.
TikTok.
Yeah.
You can find it
Yeah,
on our
hopefully,
link tree. I don't even remember our
hopefully
handle
they're
anymore.
coming. Hopefully they're coming.
It's just at 2ndPod, so it's SECOND pod POD, and we got a few banger ones, and I'm gonna put up some more. Our
found
TikTok
us.
content is fiery, so it's real. We're trying to really elevate our shit when we get to that TikTok game.
Dr. Mundo, were you playing the game along with us? Did you score yourself? How'd you do?
Your guys' audio is like a little weird right now, but that's okay.
Oh
Wow.
yeah.
Oh, yeah?
It's just like
I was
crackly.
just wondering how Dr. Mundo did with the game, if he was keeping score.
I don't know.
I don't
Yeah,
think
maybe
he
he'll tell
was,
us.
bro.
Yeah.
Motherfucker, you were talking about Jordan Peterson and Carl Jung and Persona.
He said he did very badly.
That's awesome.
All right, you want to wrap up with the classic? What you got
Yeah,
down?
but somebody go first because I have to remember what I've been doing.
All right. I'll go first.
Okay.
Yeah. So we always wrap up these streams talking about like what we've been on, like music, TV, books, like whatever we've been consuming. You know, whatever's been in our heads. I've been reading the same book, Demons by Dostoevsky. I'm gonna be reading them for a while. I'm gonna stop talking about it after this stream. And then I was listening to some great records by Chic. This disco band. I don't know if you know them. Is Niles Rodgers' disco group,
Ooh,
and they go
man.
fucking crazy. Yeah,
I
they
gotta
got great
bump some of
records
that.
like from like
Send me a
the
record.
late 70s. Yeah. You
Send
should
me a
listen
record,
to
yeah.
Chic and Say Chic. Yeah, these are great records. They're just like disco,
Okay.
like banging ass records. I was listening to Caroline Polachek record. That's a great
That's a good record.
It's a good
It's a
record.
good
Man.
record.
It's a good record. It's a great follow up to Pang. And I think she does a lot of like really cool, better things on this record than Pang.
We're gonna be talking about that record.
For sure, we should talk about that one.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, I don't know. What about you guys?
I found a new artist named Laufey. She's an Icelandic singer. It's kind of pop, kind of jazz. She has a song called Valentine that I looked up on Valentine's Day, and I wound up streaming this whole record. It's called Everything I Know About Love. Definitely a cool joint. Besides that, man, I've been playing a lot of Rocket League. Most of, like
Classic.
all these records that I've been putting on, like because I had to listen to your albums and everything too, and I was listening to this one, and so I've just been like putting on Rocket League and going on autopilot. And that's just been a great way to listen to music. The only like if I'm not focused on the lyrics, like I'm just getting into the vibes, trying to smack that ball onto that goal. So it's very zenful for me.
I fall asleep to watching my friends play Rocket League, so if you stream that, I will watch. Throw it up on your
Word.
Discord. So Janelle Monáe dropped this new track. It's called Float. It's great. And I've been playing this game that's very controversial. It's called Hogwarts Legacy.
Damn it, man! Come on, we just got our first fan.
I've been playing the shit about that. I've been playing that game, bro.
Yeah, the audio is so bad.
Sorry.
It gets worse when worse when you talk loudly.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Okay. I think my mic's too hot. My bad.
No, it's everyone. Yeah,
And
Just roll
then
back.
it's just like a desync thing. Yeah, we just gotta power through it.
and then I've been watching this Italian series. One of this just mind-bendingly crazy series. It's called Gomorrah. So I'm on season 5. It's taken me like 3 years to get this far, but I'm on season 5, and this show will fucking rip your heart out, man. It's like Sopranos level gangster shit going down. Like not just a highly recommend. It's one of my favorite shows ever. So yeah, I've been watching that. So it'll probably take me another like 2 to 3 weeks to finish this series. But I will tell you my thoughts at the end once I wrap it up.